change it for me.
Okay.
And then, yeah, keeping going. So,
Right, 'cause the architect's
Whoops, sorry about that.
no, I thought he was saying it was right. So that's why I had to. Oh, shit. That's okay. See how easy that was?
Shoot, I didn't give these out. Well, got a minute.
Scan cam stuff if you needed to finish this.
Okay. Russian abuse statement. Yeah. Had to. Brian will start on that end. I knew I had a couple of them.
Yeah, file.
Yeah. Sorry about that. This is almost like school. This one here. No, yours is stapled. You should have two. I didn't have that one. I don't know what that is. Did I have that?
I think that's something I'll turn.
What?
I don't
Oh,
think
that was the one that had the,
Is that what you?
he's got the whole,
No, he's got that
is
one.
there a mark? No, that one's good. The other one was an information thing from Granger.
Here?
Oh, here's another one.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is ours.
Yeah, that should go down.
And then I handed this to you.
Yeah, so what's the other group get?
That's, you're gonna hand that one.
Oh, sorry. Here's the Granger. Did I do that? Too much paperwork. Too much paperwork.
That's it?
Oh, she's got it.
Is there another one?
No.
Did I?
There you go.
Oh, there. I was gonna say, I thought I got that one
I don't
right.
have too many now.
All right, we're ready to go, I think. All right, watch your ears, because it never works this way. Okay, meeting is officially called to order. Actually, we're a little later. It's, what, 12 minutes after?
Okay.
So we have a roll call
Ms. Howe?
here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Benzie?
Here.
Mr. Fuensbliss?
Here.
Ms. Kellerman?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans absent this evening.
Okay. For those who have an agenda, we're on item 2. Well, actually, before we go to item 2, I guess what I'm going to have to, there's a couple things I need to say. One having to do, and I just handed it out, with some changes that have to be made for our planning commission appointment. The other thing is, I also wanted, I'm on, aren't I? I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Closer.
That's okay, that target thing just gets you. So, okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The other things that I have, I have to think on this one a minute. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight had to do with my office attire, where that's going to be. I don't know where to put that on the agenda. I think it's already, do we have it on the
It
agenda?
is on item for
Okay.
action 13B.
13B. That's, so that one we'll take care of. The reimbursement, that
That's
also is there.
13BA.
A. So I have handouts for both of those up here, just so you know that that's what's coming. The other thing, it seems like there was one other thing. I'm so discombobulated tonight, so everybody knows there's a lot of stuff going on. I guess most of it, I guess it can wait. Let's wait.
Let's do the,
Let's do the civil reflection. And that's item 2. Excuse me, it's a moment of silence, please. Thank you. There's so much going on in this world today. That is a much-needed thing. Approval of the agenda.
Comment?
Yes.
13B, number B is for me.
Okay.
And we have the architect coming in 2 weeks to talk to us because it was delayed in getting all the different things done to bring it to us. And I guess we could leave a part of that open, talking about funding, or we could just throw it all into next 2 weeks from now. It'd be easier to keep it together. So if they can be on the agenda early, because they'll be here for our 6 o'clock meeting.
Okay, do you want to remove that?
Yes, let's remove that, sorry.
Did everybody get that? 13B, small b? Okay. I'm not real sure what to do, frankly. I'm at a loss. I don't know. I have for committee appointments, I have 2 that I'm bringing to the board for their approval, but I don't know the other 2 or where they came from, A and B. So I'm not sure. I didn't do the agenda, so could you help me out? Okay, thank you.
So those had been received in the office, and I believe you have copies of those.
I do.
I put those on
Well,
because.
Johnson, I don't.
It was in your packet,
What packet?
board packet.
Oh, no, I know it's in the board packet, but I don't personally have.
So they were emailed,
Okay,
and one was from, I
Okay.
believe, maybe I'm getting confused with the ones you brought forward. One was from 2022. But those were all the applications we had received for the planning commission. So when you brought them forward without a recommendation, I wanted to put them
That's-
there so people understood they had also been received.
oh, I see. Okay. Because I didn't put them on. I have, did I send?
Well, you had the other 2, but you
Yeah,
didn't have
you had
any
the other 2.
recommendations for them. You
And
just.
I think did I give you copies? Okay, because that's what I had, and it was my mistake. I did not specifically say what they were, but I didn't know these other 2. I know Jason, obviously, but Richard Johnson was someone I'd never met, so I didn't know. But I do have Mark Craner, and I do have Jacob Mizak for the Planning Commission. So I would like to remove A and B. So 11 committee appointments, large A, small A and B, to remove those 2. I have no idea where they came from. And yes, sometimes when I get them in, and Mark has been so patient, he handed that one in early last year. And so there hasn't been an opening, so he was very, very patient. Okay, I think, is there any other changes in the agenda?
Yes.
Okay,
I believe 13B.
Unfinished.
A needs to be removed because we've already voted on that.
all right, 13,
B.
large
A.
B, items for action,
We've already taken
Because-
action on that.
and I'm asking to reappoint that, to rescind it.
I don't think you have the right to.
Yes, I do. Absolutely. Thank you, I do. So it will remain there.
Can I ask our attorney for her recommendation?
I agree with the supervisor. She does have the right to redo
Thank
that.
you.
Okay.
The only limitation found in Robert's rules regarding bringing something anew, in particular if there's new information, is if the matter comes repeatedly a number of
Right.
times to the point that I think the word that is used in Robert's rules is abusive. I don't think that 2 times qualifies for that at this time. But provided there's new information, and again, it doesn't rise to the level of being abusive by appearing on the agenda over and over, then it's proper under the rules.
Okay.
I don't know that they use the word abusive, but they do use a term I'd never heard. Do they use abusive? Because it's called something you
Absurd, I think is the word.
keep bringing it up
Yes.
over and
it's-
over.
It's, the language that comes in from Robert's Rules is
Yeah.
absurd. I didn't particularly fancy that.
I know. When I read it, I thought,
Yes.
well, okay, but that's not, okay. All right, so we'll pull that, I'm not putting words in your mouth. Treasurer?
Oh, I didn't make a motion, I just.
I know you didn't make a
recommended
motion.
it. So
but-
it can stay.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else?
So can
Geez,
I
I've seen,
just,
guys got new books. If you saw mine, you wouldn't be so impressed with it.
so to recap, we're removing, at this time, it's been proposed to remove the senior center addition at this time. And then remove the applications of Jason Almarigi and Richard Johnson from the planning commission?
This is mine. Yes.
Okay.
You can see, mine looks a lot different than his. I don't know how he does that, frankly, but. All right, nope, that makes sense. Does everybody now you understand? Should I repeat it again? That's supposed to be my job.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as
As
amended.
amended, thank you.
Second.
So we all understand it.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
Disclosure of conflict, which is 4. I don't see anything, so there's none. Public statements, and this is designed for statements concerning current agenda items.
Hi, it's me again. I know we're not supposed to ask questions, but am I getting the gist of this? You took a couple of possible appointees off from the planning commission.
Correct.
Were those placed there by the supervisor or the superintendent?
I have no idea where they came from.
So apparently it wasn't the supervisor, am I
No.
understanding that? Okay.
I've already indicated that I placed them there because they were received and there were no recommendations at that
Okay, so
time.
now you're making committee appointments as well as running the
No.
entire township?
No,
That's
there were
what it
no-
sure does sound like.
There were no
Because-
recommendations. They were there for informational purposes, so I placed the other two for informational purposes.
Is
Was
that
I
what that says?
contacted? No, I was not contacted on that one, so I don't know.
It's a little strange.
I don't think that's what that says, Karen.
She gave no indication of an expiration or a
It says
recommendation.
items for action.
No.
She brought it with her
Committee
to the
appointments.
meeting.
No items for action.
I don't get it. Why don't you guys just all resign and hand her over all the power of the township? Because that's what it's starting to look like. Why do you you get to pick your own boards now? It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Taking away the rights and the authority of the people that we voted here. But we've seen this happen all year.
So
right
they
now
were
you got
received
her-
and the board didn't have the right to see them? You guys always want transparency. I'm writing transparency. Those were received.
It's not transparency when you make a decision and put it on there to be voted on.
There's no vote.
There's no vote, Rick.
There
There was
is
no,
now.
there was no
There is.
recommendation at the
Yeah.
time.
Says
It
application.
says,
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, hold on a second, 1 second for this discussion. Go ahead, well, you finish your public comment, and then I'm going to butt in.
it says committee appointments. This does say current applications for the planning commission and the resignation of Dan Kramer. Yeah. Well, yeah, then you remove the top two, so feel sorry that they had to go through that public
too.
embarrassment. But the other thing is, you stuck Marie in an office in the back when the motion, we all clearly heard it. I've listened to it 3 times on the video. Restore Marie's office. Restore Marie to her office. That was never her office. You know that. What kind of power play is this? Passive aggressive, oh, well, we gave you an office, so it's all okay.
Right.
That's crazy. She spent 19 grand because you guys convinced an employee that they should
Rick?
file a
Your
lawsuit.
3 minutes is up. Thank you.
My 3 minutes is up because I kept being interrupted.
I know, and I did,
Well, that's okay
Part-
too?
no, part of what I did was interrupt. What I have to say with this business, if this is what you're going to bring it up, this is my folder for those who apply, okay? I have lots of folders in here, lots of applications for people who applied. Lynn Johnson, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is, so I don't have that in my file. I have some of these that I kept. Recently, I was told, Mark, in fact, brought that up, kind of, because his name was put in there, because his application was an older application. I firmly believe if there's nothing that's changed in an individual with their application, I don't care if they gave it 10 years ago. The point is, would I like to have an update? Of course, I would like an update. But the fact is, nothing has changed in 10 years, okay? So this is why he was put on. If I have to explain myself, I'll explain it. There are people who believe if they put an application in, they automatically get the position. That's not true. That's not true. It goes through the process of whether or not I present that to the board for their approval. So I didn't understand. I know Jason. I've known him for a long time. He sits right back there. So that isn't as if I don't know him. And I knew he had put the application in because 2 of the planning people had come to me and said, you know, you really should. And I looked at him and said, I don't think so. I have others that are better off and they're better qualified. So that's something that the decision I have to make. So it does fall on my shoulders. So I just want to make sure that that's understood why you have 2 instead of 4 and why I asked that the 2 be removed because I didn't put them there. I don't know what happens to them. I have no clue. I'll keep them and they'll be passed on if I don't run for the next position in March to put my name in for this position. I'll keep it and pass it on to the next one that's there so that they too can see who has put an application in. That's how the process is really supposed to work. You don't, to me, you don't clean it out simply because a year has gone by and someone else, you know, needs to put it in or you haven't put it in or whatever. So anyway, that's my explanation for it, for whatever that's worth. So now, I think for us, we are ready. Do we, yeah, we're still on public comments, thank you. Is there anybody else that has a public comment? I know, I see that. Oh, well, as long as it's on the agenda, which, let's see, we had it removed. Sherry removed it. So I don't see, I guess you will have to wait. All right. So it appears there isn't any other questions. Okay, so now we'll go for the city, the county, state, federal, anybody? Where's Dwight? He always is here. I don't see Dwight. Okay, so no one is here. So now we go to the consent agenda, which is number 7 for those who are following on your agenda packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Ms. Butler Chandler, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we have a capital A, receive on file. Oh, for the consent agenda, so we're good. So everybody who has that understands who it was that submitted their minutes. Okay. Approval of vouchers, 9.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Wait,
vouchers.
we need 8.
You're an 8,
Eight, we gotta do 8.
approval of minutes.
My staple. Okay. Okay, because I have a question with that. But we have the approval of the minutes, and we'll have a discussion. You have a first and a second. Now discussion.
Can I make a request?
Now you can, yes.
Okay. Can we just separate the August 7th minutes as one
Okay,
vote, and then the
that's-
August 21st is a second vote? Is that okay?
That's what I was,
Okay.
yeah. It makes sense. And the reason for that, just so the public knows, the reason for the August 7th division is because there was a question about my office, of whether or not it was her office or a office. And that's why we need to separate the two, because the clerk was going to check that out. And I'm assuming you did check it. And you found?
Yeah, we do it now or a discussion?
No, well, we already have a first, and we have a second.
That was the previous
That was a
item.
previous.
So, all right, so we need a first.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting from August 7th as presented.
Okay.
Second it?
Actually, we should have done to prove that it's okay to do that, but I'm assuming. Never assume. Okay, discussion B.
Okay. At the last meeting, trustee Kellerman questioned how I wrote the minutes up, so I told her I'd go back and review them. I went back and reviewed the minutes, and the way I had written the first one, it was to restore Supervisor Howe's Township office effective August 8th, 2023. She requested it be changed to restore Supervisor Howe to her Township office effective August 8th, 2023. Ms. Kellerman, I went ahead and made the change, but the way I read it, to me, it read the same way. I'm just letting you know that's how I read it, that it means the same thing, but I did make the change for you.
Okay, I see that.
Okay?
So the motion is still on the floor to accept the minutes. For August 2nd.
As
7th.
amended.
As amended.
As amended. Okay, second.
Okay.
No, as presented,
As
because I've already,
She changed
I changed them for you at your
Okay, gotcha.
request.
Yes.
Okay, who's ready? Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes,
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
All right, now, before we go on to B and C, does that mean that I get my office back that I've had since 2020?
There's an item on the agenda.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying the minutes have been changed, so that's an acknowledgement. So what you're saying is wait till the agenda. That's fine. I have no issue with that. All right, so approval of minutes B and C, which would be for August 21st for a special meeting and August 21st for a regular meeting.
I'll
Do
make
I
a
first?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meetings held on August 21st, 2023 as amended, because I need to make a couple adjustments.
On 21?
Yes,
Okay.
and I can point them out. On page 3, I put the wrong date. Under approval of the vouchers, I put August 7th, and it should be the 21st. So that's one. And then on page 8, I forgot to put trustee Rosecrans. I just put his last name. So,
Wondered about that. Thank you.
so if I'd like that amended, I'll go ahead and make those amendments.
I'll second it.
Okay. No discussion. Ready? Okay. Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
And that's as amended, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Now, you want to do this regular meeting? You want them all separated, or does that take care of it?
I said minutes with the
I know.
rest, so yeah.
That's,
together.
okay.
Yep.
Nope, I
Thank you.
assume that's what it was.
Thank you.
So approval of the vouchers, 9.
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay.
the September 5th, 2023 vouchers as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
although I haven't seen the vouchers yet. Are they in my box?
You should have got them.
Okay. Usually I don't unless I see them, so I'll say yes without seeing them. Okay, item 10, for those who are following, treasurer's report, there doesn't seem to be one. Just as a side note, I hope we'll start getting those, even though Steve never did it.
Quarterly, you'll get them quarterly.
No,
That's
I
what
mean,
statutorily.
no, I mean every 2 weeks.
Well, that's
Or at least
kind of
once a
what
month.
your voucher report is, if you
I
look
know,
at it.
for me, but not for what you give.
What do you mean? This,
You don't know,
this
never mind, you don't know how
shows
to.
what checks.
You can ask for a report.
What type of report do you
All
want?
right, what I'm looking for a report is a simple, really simple check and balance of a balance sheet. What we have, what we spent.
That's right here.
It is.
That's what
I
we've
signed
spent.
it. They don't have it. I think the public needs a treasury report. You want to hand those out? That's fine with me.
Marie,
Yes,
it
I'm
sounds
sorry.
like what you're asking for is a budget to actual report. Is that correct?
You want an expense and revenue?
I want a balance sheet that shows what our expenditures are and what our revenue is that came in. If we didn't have any revenue coming in, we don't have it. We
That's
always
called-
have expenditures.
That's called a budget to actual, and I
Well,
think that's actually generated out of Karen's
That
department.
could be a new term that I'm not familiar with.
So you can keep
But-
up on the money coming in and the money
So-
going out, right? Is
So
what
our
you're
treasurer
saying.
doesn't do that?
No, she only attributes
That's
the
a
money
budget.
coming in.
Okay. Here you go. I hope you guys are, yeah, I know.
I mean, that's
So
not our
those are-
statutory.
That's not
You're
my
my age.
statutory duty though,
Okay,
just so you know.
Can I, please, may I?
yes.
Um,
please.
But those don't occur, those occur monthly, but you're asking for it every 2 weeks. Am I
I'm
correct?
asking for a treasury report every 2 weeks so that we know kind of where we're at, what we've expended and
So that's
What
budget
else?
related and that's mine.
however it works. I don't care who does it, just so
Okay.
it's done.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Item 11, committee appointments. That's me. You've already heard so much from me, but I'm going to do it anyway. I handed out a sheet to everyone. Apparently I ran, did you get one? Okay. And what I have is Mark Craner. Where is,
Is it Craner or Kramer?
no, it's not Kramer, it's Craner. K-R-A-N-E-R.
Okay. well,
Mark Craner.
Spelled on here,
Okay,
okay. You have it spelled with an F.
oh, I have him up top, but just, well, see, that's Freudian thinking. Must have been on my mind.
Oh, no, that's Daniel Kramer, never mind.
Yep. To replace, no, I was going to say,
That's
that couldn't
Kramer.
be. Okay, I tried really hard to make sure that was correct, because I knew somebody'd find it. Okay, Mark Craner, he had an application, and he submitted his in June of '22. He has a higher education administration. He lives in Bath with a Hazlet address. He's educated in political science, just so you know that. He is retired, which is very good. He is involved with his community, he was involved with his community in Jackson, Wisconsin. He had numerous community activities. He was the Kiwanis Cub, the Lions Club, National Association, past presidents, National Association College and Universities for Food Services, which actually has an acronym, and I hate acronyms, but here it is. It's NACUFS. This, of course, is in your packet because you have his application. Mark has been a volunteer with the National Association of College auxiliaries, and he's been a regional president foundation. He was elected as an alderman, now this is what they call them in Jefferson, Wisconsin, to the Planning Commission. And he was also elected to the Police and Fire Board. So I think Mark is a very well-rounded, good individual for our Planning Commission. And he's going to be taking Dan Kramer, who submitted his application, which means that his termination date will be December 31 of 2023. So Mark will have to be reappointed. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Because his termination, I know it does to our committees, but I'm not sure it does, but that's what it is. So his termination will be the 23rd, 2023 in December. Yes.
I make a motion to appoint Mark Craner to the Planning Commission, replacing Dan Kramer, with a termination date or a term end date of December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Thank you, because it was my error.
No discussion?
I don't think there's any discussion. Go ahead.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
My second appointment is, and this was really a tough one for me, on a number of levels. This is going to replace George Baker. George has been with the Planning Commission, oh my God, John, since what? I know he's been here since I've been here, 2020, and I didn't reappoint. Planning Commission has a law that says they can stay on the Planning Commission until they're replaced. And George has always been, I think, very helpful, very knowledgeable with what's happening. He holds two committees. He has the Planning Commission and the road. So it was a tough one on that respect. However, when Mark Myzak, M-Y-S-Z-A-K, Myzak, he moved into the community just recently, in fact, in June, and he's bilingual. And by that, I mean he speaks English and Spanish, you know this. He has a dual major, which is political science and Spanish. He's familiar with land development and land management. He's a project manager, is what he does for a living, okay? So he's volunteered his time. He immediately got involved, which is what he wanted to do, with the U6 soccer. He wants to give back to the community. He's new to this community. He comes from, I think, Grand Ledge. But he's new for this community. He's married with two children. They have a third one on the way, a little boy. And his children will attend Bath Public School. So I am nominating him for your acceptance. Anything else? For your acceptance for Jacob Myzak, who will replace George Baker. Yes, Ryan?
I don't think we should replace George Baker. I think he's a real asset to the Planning Commission. His dual appointment to Roads and Planning Commission actually is helpful for us, his history on the committee. I know we can't officially put him on unless you recommend him, so he's sort of been in this limbo.
He is in this limbo, and he's been really
So
good about
I
it.
would ask the board not to replace him at this point. I think you're right, Jake is a really great candidate, and I'd love to hold on to him for a future appointment.
I think what you're saying makes a lot, that's why it was so difficult. George and I had a long talk this week, last week actually, with regards to replacing him, and it was really a tough decision. He knew that. He likes what he's doing, and he enjoys it, but he certainly understands that he's been a placeholder and that he hasn't been replaced. Now that I have found someone who does equal to what he has and can give as much as he gives, then it's time. And he understood that. He was very, very gracious, and it was a great conversation. So this is my recommendation. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. However, this
not-
appointment is a good appointment.
He's not quitting,
Oh,
George.
No, he's on road commission. Yes, he is. He's not on planning. What happens is, George has been what I call, a placeholder. That means that the law states for the planning commission that he can be there until the cows come home. That's the way the statutory requirement until he's replaced.
But he's not
And
asking to be
He's not
taken
being
He's-
off.
asked
he's
to be
not-
removed, though.
Well, yes and no.
Did he put in a
That's,
resignation?
he has not put in a resignation.
I guess that's where I'm
No.
confused.
No, George has not, he doesn't have to, because he's been terminated since long before I got here, actually, I think 19. But because by law, you can keep him without a replacement, then my replacement for him, so I'm not sure he needs a letter for termination, only because he's been placeholding for all this time, and he'll continue to be a placeholder if that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's what he wants to do. For him, it has been a tough.
My
it has been.
conversations with Emery Marie have been that he is interested in staying.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
Okay.
I'm
I
sure
just
that's
wanted to
true.
Put that out there.
Because the road commission is coming up, and he understands, and I've talked to him way back in 2020. He and I had a long discussion. George is a good guy to talk to. I'm assuming Jacob will be just as good. But what he was saying at that time, and he understood my philosophy, was I was hoping to find one committee, one person. And because I believe that this community has more than enough people to fill these committees, more than enough. This one was a tough one to fill. I didn't have suggestions. I had some suggestions that simply didn't work, that weren't good for this position to take George's place. So it does make it very difficult, but I still believe that there's enough people in this community for one person, one committee. I've always felt that, and I still feel it. I still feel that there are more than enough people to fill these committees. I just have to find them, or they have to find me, one or the other. Yes,
I'm going to support leaving George on the planning commission also.
I'm sure, and he will stay, and I told him that. I said, the board has the right to do that. They have a right to be able to not accept, and just so that's understood. My purpose is to bring appointments to the board, and they in turn have to accept it. If they don't accept it, then they don't. And that's kind of the way it is. Things will remain as are. And like I say, this Jacob, to me, finally, after all this time, was someone that really could fill the boots for what George has to offer. And he's still on the road committee, along with you. Aren't you on the road? Yeah, he's on the road committee. So, anyway, do we have a nomination or a motion and a second? And if we don't, then it'll die. And George will stay as is, a placeholder.
Make the motion.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Jacob
Mizak. That's kind of an interesting, is there a second? So if there's no second, this motion will die. So we will move on. So we have one committed. Well, I will talk to George again, but I don't have to because he and I had this great conversation initially. But anyway, so now we're going to Township reports, item 12, for those that aren't following or are following on the agenda. And it seems that there are no reports. So we have 13 unfinished business. Introduction and discussion items. Oh, I'm the one. I'm up next. I'm A. So I'm asking again. Sorry about that.
You're BA. You're BA.
I'm BA. Oh, because I've been removed?
No, you're A.
Oh, because you've been removed.
No, because A, first one is
13A, there's nothing.
discussion, we're action. We're down to B, action.
We're down, thank you.
It's B.
Okay,
You're correct.
yeah, okay.
You are, see, now somebody's following the agenda. Where are you guys at? Come on. Follow the agenda. All right. 13, unfinished business, B as in boy, items for action. Thank you, Jerry.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please do.
I'm a taxpayer And it seems like it would be cheaper, way cheaper possibly, and I have never spoken to her about this, so I don't really know. But to make this go away and die, to pay her expenses as she was found innocent, seems to be the most expedient, reasonable thing to do price-wise for our taxpayers. I'd rather do that than pay a lawsuit that I would imagine is coming for the expenses that our office seemed to have caused her. That's my opinion. I don't know why we want to spend more money on this, guys. I would make a motion that we reimburse her for proven legal expenses for this case that she was found, and do it now before it's too late to change our mind and make the right decision.
Thank you.
You
What-
need to give that motion a number.
Well,
And when she proves exactly what it is.
Here, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
There you go, there's the number.
At this time, the dollar amount is $20,120.10
that's,
to pay her to be done with this. And I would also add to this motion that we're done with Marie, that she can't come back and sue us next month for $1 million or $2 million. That's my motion.
I don't know that that's legal.
Well,
sure it
I
is,
think it
but
would be
hey.
if we write it up correctly at the time we do it, so that we don't end up doing this and then being both.
I think what I heard trustee Kellerman say is that she would like to make a motion to approve the supervisor's attorney fees in the amount of $20,120.10 in exchange for a release of claims from the supervisor.
Better English.
Does that accurately capture what you were?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to, not do both.
Understood.
is that all claims? Because we're not finished yet. That's true, we need a second before we can have a debate. So who's going to second? Anybody?
Can I ask Lizzie to repeat that one more time? The motion?
No?
We can sure try. I think that trustee Kellerman was, the impetus was to reimburse the supervisor for her proven legal expenses in the amount of $20,120.10 in exchange for a full release of claims. Is that what I heard? I would be happy to help the clerk's office if we need to capture that, any
Thank
in
you.
later minute production.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the, motion has been stated, is there a second? Okay, motion dies because there wasn't a second.
Why did you second?
You could second it.
Can I second my own, for my own pay?
Did she second a motion?
I think that's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I think there
I
will
think
be a
it is
concern
too.
about
Yeah, I
the
think it
supervisor
is a
being involved in
conflict.
that vote.
Okay.
No, that's a,
can't.
I can't.
Conflict.
Because it is a conflict.
Yeah.
I'm requesting to pass my own pay, my own money. And in doing that, I think that causes a conflict of interest. This board has to determine their own responsibility, and obviously they're not. So, you know, that's okay. That'll work. They assume that, you know, their hands are clean and they're not, but that's okay. I can't do that. Okay. So be it. That is that.
B,
The
we
next
skip.
issue, we took the senior center off. My office, I think I asked that earlier.
That's why it's on here. I mean,
Yeah,
you didn't,
supervisor's office.
and that was from me again. The minutes were changed. My motion was clearly to return supervisor to her office. And it was a little vague in the first minutes, we fixed that, and now it's to her office. I would like to make sure that we get her back to her office, not an office, not a closet, but her office. And I will make that motion. Again, we already made it, and we passed it, so I don't know why we need to bring it before the board again. The motion was passed to return her to her office. 4 votes to 3 votes.
That's a good point. Oh, I'm sorry.
Now you said return this time, where before you said restore.
Wait a minute, say that again.
You're saying return this time, and before
Or
your
restore
motion
her
was
to her
restore,
office,
so
correct. You're
is it
correct. Yes.
Restore?
That's
I mean, which
semantics.
one do you want to?
Restore to my
We'll
office.
do the same
and
motion,
thing.
and restore her to her office,
Okay.
effective immediately as of August 8th. I have no idea.
Ask Karen.
So when the motion was made, I did understand that you wanted the office returned. I chose to put her in the back hallway, in an office that was held by a senior member of staff, so I don't consider it a closet. And I did so because during that meeting, there were indications that there were other complainants. And having the front office, having had previous complaints from front office staff, having a complaint from the treasurer, I felt it best for all parties to be separated, and so I put the office in the back hallway.
Which means that you agree with the fact that I'm striking them on a daily basis.
I'm saying there were complaints, and I was
And I'm
trying
saying-
to minimize,
But you didn't come to me for any type of minimizing.
I didn't check with them to minimize. I made a decision to try to minimize the interaction between you and those that had had complaints.
I guess
Well,
this
when
is,
I go to my own office, I'm not even in the main office.
this is where I kind of consider duties of the Board of Trustees should be considered, talked with, why are we here if we don't help with the decisions? They voted for us. We have to keep working. We can't just say everything is too little to think about or deal with. It's not minutia, it's important,
So-
in my mind. Perhaps I'm wrong.
Okay, guys.
It's fine. We don't have to fight.
Shoot.
I would just return us to the conversation in the last meeting, that we, as a board, again, not us, boards previous, have dedicated duties to the superintendent, including facilities management. This board then agreed to one more time, put a fine point on it, back in 2020, to rededicate those rights to her. So we should not be in the day-to-day decision-making over who gets what office.
Wait a minute.
I hear what you're saying, that you disagree with her decision and that you'd like to review it. I think that's reasonable and fair. What I don't think is reasonable is that every office or facility change will come to the board level. We cannot get the day-to-day work done as a board that meets every 2 weeks. We have to delegate that to our staff. Or we have to switch our form of government again and get rid of the superintendent, take back that authority. And that is an option. That is an option. But until we do that, she's doing what she has been told to do and is held accountable to do in her contract.
Except this time.
I'm not gonna argue with the audience. That's
No,
all
I
have to say.
didn't think that you would. What I guess I'm trying to say with this, which doesn't make any sense, when you said in 2020
Yes.
is when it was reappointed?
No.
No,
We took a second vote.
We took a-
This board took a vote,
to accept,
not to accept, to redelegate facilities
Facility-
management to
To-
Karen. Even
yes.
though she already
Yeah,
had
do you
it,
re-
we
do you
took a
remember-
second vote.
Yes, you remember when that happened? You do remember, obviously, when that happened. I had a table that was taken, which had to do with security of this building. That also dealt with the point of who would set it up. At that time, it was determined that the superintendent would set up the room. The clerk would set where we sit. to tell us, like a child, where you sit. Because frankly, I wanted to do it a little different, which would have actually put you up here, which, as a supervisor, that office would fit just fine. That would be fine. I've had my office since 2020. And to have that taken away, it's kind of like your home, And there are very few times that I actually come out, this, everybody else knows this, that works in this office. I go to my office, I stay there. I don't interact with anybody. I have my own printer, my own file cabinet, which, by the way, I didn't understand that there were keys to that. That's been opened. My personal items have been taken out as well as the township items.
records.
Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting thing to learn.
Township records were contained in that filing.
All of
cabinet.
them were, yep, oh, of course, all need to come out before, that however you termed it, repurposing it, before my final, and I have to say final, decision was made by the judge that I was not guilty. So am I a little upset about it? Yeah, I'm a little upset about it, from the standpoint that, that's not my office. My office, which has been there since 2020, is in the hall. And do I bother anybody? I'm sorry if I bother somebody. Trust me, that won't happen too often. Oh, nope.
Sorry.
I'm sure you are. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope.
So there's been ongoing conversations about security in the office too.
Yes.
Which trustee Kellerman has taken up and explained that she was concerned for your safety as well as other people's safety.
And hers.
So I'm confused because I am taking a measure to put distance between those who have had complaints with you, and now there are no security issues.
You of all people should not have a concern. It was very, very clear that you should not have a concern. It didn't happen. No matter how hard you tried, it didn't happen.
I didn't try.
Yeah,
That wasn't me.
The films were there, and it showed. I mean, the whole process was, frankly, disconcerting with how government actually works for me. And I've been in government.
So there
So,
have been additional mentions
there-
of complaints.
I'm sure because I haven't been here?
I haven't had any while you haven't been here.
Oh, and you didn't have any before?
I did have them
Yes, you
before.
did. Oh, I'm sure, and I'm sure, Jennifer's here to tell I slapped the crap out of her too. So, I mean, who in this township haven't I hit? That was one of my questions. Who have I not hit in this township? Because it appears from anything that's been said to me or to anybody else, I smack everybody. Have you been hit?
I can't recall. No, I don't believe I have been.
Okay.
I just said, no, I don't believe I have been.
No, you
But-
haven't.
But I
Have you
do,
been
I have
hit?
seen you.
Have I been?
Yeah, have you been hit?
No.
Have you, the clerk?
You don't hit.
I use my hands a lot, so I'm
You
trying to
touch.
hold
You-
it.
You get in people's personal
Space.
spaces.
Yep, I was told that.
Okay.
Did I hit you?
No, you touched me,
Thank-
but not hit me, no.
Thank you. And you, I've hit you.
You have
And you
slapped me on
hit-
the back.
Yeah, slapped you on the back.
Yes, Marie,
Okay.
you have gone into my cubicle and
And
slapped me
you
on the back to get my attention of all things.
And you have it on your phone.
No,
Oh, well, because the FOIA request, I understand, is supposed to be showing that I hit you.
yeah,
Okay,
there's a video,
okay, good.
yeah,
Then why wasn't in the court?
because that wasn't my case.
But you testified, you were a witness.
But it wasn't my case. I didn't put the complaint against you.
You were a witness.
I did a witness statement.
Yes, you
They
did.
never brought it up. They've never asked me.
They never asked me. No one's ever talked to me, so I haven't got a
Nobody's ever asked
clue.
me.
No one's ever asked me. And this
just saying.
continues to go on. So I guess what I'm trying to point out is, I don't think that holds water.
So all the other complaints from other employees don't matter.
No, they don't. You know why? Who pays the check?
Yeah, but you're putting your hands on people.
Oh, my God, I'm putting my hands on people. I'm putting my hands on
You're
people.
in their personal space. It's unwanted, unwarranted.
Has anybody ever said that to me?
Yes.
I think they have.
We have
Really?
a binder full of complaints, Marie, from
Oh, I'm
staff.
sure you have binders and binders full of complaints.
It's hard, Marie, to have a conversation with
It
you.
is,
when
it
you-
is, this conversation
Could
is
I-
very hard.
Could I finish?
I had to, no, because I had to go into criminal court in order to prove something that I already knew.
That's
And
not
that's
my
what this
fault, Marie.
20,000
That's not my fault.
Yes, it is.
Regardless of what you think, regardless of what your husband thinks, regardless of what Rick Curtis thinks, it's not
regardless
my
of your
fault.
email. Okay,
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
okay, okay. Anyway, I'm done. So where are we at anyway with this? I was trying to explain why it was, whoops. Yes, we are on 13B.
Madam Supervisor?
Thank you.
Trustee Kellerman had a motion. I'm not sure if she
Yes.
received a second. That is where we are at this
That's
point.
where we are. And in fact, I wrote on that, motion died. And someone said, why couldn't I do it? That's how we started with this
Yeah.
explanation. And it's a conflict of interest. So there is no second, is that correct?
Madam Supervisor, I mean, as a point of conflict, I don't think that you're voting on an office location. It is the same as you're voting on the legal expenses reimbursement. I do
I
think you would be
do.
entitled to second and vote on this matter as a function of facilities management if you chose to do so. And I'm not
And
sure
you
if
don't
this was
see that
on at
in-
all, so it's okay.
Well, mine is,
didn't
because I
get a
keep
second.
raising it.
No, I don't think
Okay,
it's
so
a
what you're saying
conflict.
is legally, this is not a conflict of interest for me to determine where my office is. But
Correct.
it's illegal to determine the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I'm going to second it through the attorney's opinion that that's okay, no conflict. Got it.
Could you repeat the motion, please?
The motion to return her to her office. Is it-
It was the same as what it was last week, to restore Supervisor Howe to her township office effective August 8th, 2023.
Would you like to be more specific about what office you'd like her to be in?
Maybe I should at this point. Return her to,
This-
to,
yes,
to
the same one I've had
return
since-
Miss Howe to the office from which she was removed. Return her to that very same office is my motion.
that I've had since November 20th of 2020. All right, is there a second?
You did.
Oh, I did. That's true, I'm not used to doing that. Shoot,
I just have a question.
oh, go ahead. Yes.
What happens, and it's actually for Lizzie, what happens if there's more if she continues to touch people, get in their personal space, and there's more complaints? I mean, from an employer point, from an employer's point of view,
Marie, it's very hard to hear what's going on.
I think you heard her just fine.
I didn't. I'm asking you respectfully to control the audience.
Screw you.
Careful. Careful.
Real classy.
Would you like me to answer, Madam Supervisor?
Yes, I would,
Thank you.
please, thank you.
I recall from a prior meeting that the supervisor had mentioned an investigatory process that she was curious about whether it had been adhered to in this space and advised that it had not been, I believe, because she had not been asked the question. I do recall that discussion, that type of investigatory process that she was quoting, I think from one of our newsletters from the firm, was with
That's
respect
true.
to discrimination and harassment complaints, which are those complaints which are based on a protected class. So for instance, if I were being treated differently because I'm a short woman, that's why I wear these heels, that would be the required process under the law. When it comes to claims of physical violence, there are two methods for addressing that. One method is that you allow that individual to do what they wish with that, which could include going to the police or not. That is the employee's, it's prerogative because it's not the township's situation. The other is that you certainly could approach a process along that which was described for the discrimination and harassment process, which is to engage in an investigation, to engage in an exploration with the individual about what happened, the individual who claims something bad happened, to explore witness discussion or commentary, to find out if anybody witnessed or observed it, to otherwise gather facts. And then certainly to also include as a process, if you wish, to speak with the individual who was, in this case, if Supervisor Howe is the person accused of having done wrong, you could certainly also ask her what she has done or not done in that case, just as you have the person who makes the complaint. At that time, it would be up to the superintendent, who is your day-to-day personnel manager, who would be making decisions as to what happened, and bringing a recommendation if one is necessary to this board relating to Supervisor Howe. If it were between employees, then I would suggest that that is within the purview of the superintendent's office to deal with that. So for instance, if you had two members of the front office staff who were engaged in the behavior like we're talking about here today, whether it's a touching or a hitting or whatever it is, that would be something that she could sort out within her responsibilities. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
But it also brings up other questions. When you discuss informing the violator, I'm the violator, is that something that is a normal course of things that are done? In other words, do you secretly hide it under the table and not say anything and wait until you file a complaint criminally? Or do you speak to that individual and say, we don't like what you're doing, or this is what you're doing whether you realize it or not? This is what's happening. And we have a whole file full of complaints. So how do you respond to that?
Yes, I think your question has a lot of layers to it, so I'm going to do my best to answer
Okay.
it. I also recognize you may not find my answer satisfactory,
Nope,
so
that's-
we'll do our best here. When you use that term violator,
Right.
again, I think that is likely coming from language that would guide, for instance, townships when they have that type of discrimination and harassment complaint. That's the type of language that we have. There's a statutory, I'm sorry, not a statutory, but a case law-driven method for how we go about that process, that we are required to pursue that. There is no similar thing for when there is a claim of physical violence or bullying or whatever the word may be in the workplace. So absent a township policy that gives us a process, that process is going to be evaluated, I suspect, on a case-by-case basis. That is not unique to Bath Township. Typically, it's informed by what's the nature of the harm that has allegedly occurred, and what does the individual who believes they have been harmed wish to do moving forward. We, as a township attorney, wherever I am, whether it's here or someplace down the road, I don't have the right to tell an employee they can or cannot pursue a criminal complaint. That's completely up to them.
Absolutely.
And usually, if that happens, in my experience, if someone is pursuing a criminal matter, it is difficult for an employer to be involved at exactly the same time, because you have law enforcement who is exploring the matter contemporaneous to an employer attempting to explain the matter, and I think it becomes very complicated.
I find that most interesting.
Okay?
I do. And it's not that I don't agree with what you're saying, it's terminologies
Okay.
that you're using. Because it was very, very clear that it was stated to lean on you, to lean on the attorney to make sure. You were the attorney, I'm sorry to say, but you were the one at the time. And the other thing I really have a hard time with is, are you telling me that a violator is, now see, this is my law enforcement background, a violator is not someone who actually commits the crime? That's a term that's used different than what you would use some other place? Did I misunderstand that?
I am saying that when you use the term violator,
Okay.
typically that means a violation of a policy. We don't call people who are in the criminal justice system violators. We call them defendants, we call them accused, we call them all sorts of things. And again, I don't practice criminal law for a reason. That's not the lane I'm in. But we don't typically hear that sort of language. Violator just suggests violation, and in my world, in the employment policy side of things, it's the violation of a policy.
But I was in a criminal arena, not a civil, not a municipality. It was criminal.
Yes.
So in that charge being made that, for me, which was a pretty personal assault from the fact that that's where I came from. I used to send people to do that kind of thing. But the point being, I was accused of a crime. It was supported by this board. It was supported through numerous actions that had been taken. So I had to follow through on where it went, and I knew where it would go. Thank goodness the judge saw what I saw and what everybody else saw that was sitting there watching it, and anybody who's seen it understands what happened. So when you try to wash your hands of it to say, violator is not something that we use in this term, we use it over here, that's something that I'm stuck with. Okay? It doesn't make any difference whether I'm in a municipality whether I'm walking down the street. The fact is, at the time, I was considered a violator. I was considered a defendant, if that's what you want to feel more comfortable with. I was considered someone who had actually broken the law and had actually physically went after somebody. And this huge file that is on me, nobody said one word to me from day one until I was contacted by the MSP, Michigan State Police, stating that he was going to interview me. And of course, my response was, for what? I didn't know what the devil he was talking about until he explained it to me. Then it became incredibly clear what was going on. So I'm not so sure that the terms that you're using necessarily fit this particular situation.
I understand,
And I-
and I
I
mentioned at the
appreciate
top
that.
of my comments that we may
No,
not reach
that's-
agreement.
Absolutely, but
And
I
I
needed to
think-
verbalize it.
I think also that during the discussion on this motion, the clerk has asked a good question about how will this be handled in moving forward. We've had some good conversation about what that might look like.
Yeah.
And we also continue to be happy to work with the township on updating the personnel policies so that maybe there can be some policies that give some clarity. That would ultimately come to this board for approval as well. So that would also provide some guardrails.
But that doesn't take care of the present. I think that's really nice, and I think it's a positive, and it's in the right step to do it, but it doesn't take care of what happened.
I understand. Madam
Okay.
Supervisor, the motion is about returning you to your
To my office,
And-
that's correct.
And the clerk asked me, what would the process be in the future? So that is the thrust of my answers. I hope that's helpful.
Well, it wasn't from my standpoint, but I appreciate the terms that you use. The legalese for that is something that, for me, it's really, really hard. Because if you've had an office since 2020, unless there is something, and I was kicked out of my office, literally, without even understanding what was going on. And I was kicked out of the building for not even understanding what was going on. Everybody was incredibly quiet and silent. Nobody ever told me for what reason it was that I had been removed. Now, all of a sudden, we have this really thick file, and we have all these cameras, and we have all these issues of security because of me? I mean, I don't, somehow, that just doesn't ring true.
I have
So-
never misunderstood what your position is.
I know you never have. I've heard that from many other people. All right, so now we're having the motion, and the motion is to return me to the office. And for the attorney's opinion, there is no conflict, so I second it. So now, as a second, we had a discussion, and we were discussing what was going on, what was said, for those who want to discuss it. We did. So now we have a vote.
Mr. Benzie?
No.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Fewens Bliss?
No.
Ms. Butler Challenger, no. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
No.
So in other words, if I'm understanding, and this goes down, because that comes out to what? Without Al here, you'd have what, 4-2?
Yeah.
Okay. So my understanding is my office is in the back, away from everybody, but the one I had since 2020 is no longer mine because that's been repurposed.
Correct.
Because that was your obligation and your decision to do that, along with this board.
Correct.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, what is our next agenda? Hang on here. All right, we're on early voting.
Okay.
I think that's yours, D.
Yep.
Okay.
First, we made a vote on August 7th, and Ms. Howe, you made a comment that, and I understand that is my call on how Bath Township handles the 9 days of early voting. I appreciate the board's input, which is what I asked at the August 7th meeting. It was decided, well, upon further conversation of the Clinton County clerk, it was decided that hosting a third early voting site is not needed at this time. So on August 7th, the option we voted on to partner with Clinton County to become an early voting site is no longer an option. I'm going to highlight some stuff. And if you have any questions, just ask me. When I asked for you to vote at the August meeting, the deadline was in August. They keep changing the deadlines, so now it's in September. A couple weeks ago, it was at the end of September. Last week, a grant came available to the county, so they moved it up to the 8th. So as I said at the first meeting, this is changing all the time. So I'm just trying to give you guys, I'm trying to keep you guys updated on all the information. Okay. Clinton County, most of the Clinton County jurisdictions would have to, well, all of them, all of the jurisdictions would have to pay an additional $309 per precinct per election if we were going to be a third party, a third voting site. And they don't feel it's cost efficient. If we were a third voting site, it would require an extra 50 election inspectors. So there's a cost in there. Clinton County Clerk reached out to the Bureau of Elections, and they discussed having most counties, even larger than us, have 1 to 2 early voting sites per county, and the Bureau is saying that that is adequate. Clinton County Transit will offer free rides to the voting centers, so anybody from Bath Township, they would take over to DeWitt. They'll do that on the early voting and on election day. We have to remember, early voting is an additional way to vote. Bath voters still can vote absentee ballot or vote in person on election day at their precinct. I actually went back and figured it out, we have approximately 40% of our voters are signed up on the permanent list to receive an absentee voter ballot application. So, Bath Township early voting estimate for participation is about 63 voters per precinct per day. And then that number is much lower if we take into account the 40%. If we take into account the 40%, it's about 44 per precinct per day, so about 211 voters per day. So at this time, the better option would be to continue the plans to establish an AV counting board, which we probably should have did this a while ago, and it was never done, so we planned on doing this last year. I've already purchased, which I was approved, already purchased the machines. They actually came in today. And that in the future, we'll revisit the early voting site here in Bath Township. But I'm proposing that we do the counting board first. So basically is what I'm looking at is I just want to rescind the August 7th, 2023 vote to participate with Clinton County to become an early voting site along with other locations in DeWitt, Charter Township, and Bingham Township, and split the cost among jurisdictions participating.
I'll second that.
You had a question?
Okay.
Thank you. The August, when you came to us and said, this is what you needed, it was like $15,000 or something. But you couldn't make the decision. You wanted to make sure the board had the
No,
input.
I could have made this decision, but I wanted your guys' opinion.
Right. And so the opinion was they wanted Bath people to be able to vote.
And yes, we had two options.
We had the two. So actually, it was early. If you keep changing, and you know they keep changing, why didn't you wait?
I didn't know that at that time.
Okay,
It's been
okay.
changing a lot lately.
Oh, so it's only lately, not since?
Believe me, I would not have
No,
brought this.
that's
to a
what I
vote.
wondered for
Yeah,
August
no, I
7th.
wouldn't have.
So when did the changes start
Well, I
taking place?
remember at August 7th, they said they needed to know, like, the next Thursday.
That night.
Yeah. And of course, you didn't say to them, I don't think so, because we don't have a board meeting, but, you know, that's okay. So you brought it to us, and
Yeah.
and we've said, we told what we wanted. Now we're looking at rescinding that vote. So I will still be able to vote in DeWitt. So basically, all we're doing is, we're just saying, we're not going to participate. You physically will not participate. Our clerk will not participate in this. They'll
The
have
option was
two.
taken away.
Okay, so because there wasn't enough interest in it?
Correct.
Okay, so what we're saying is that we have two places now that we can go to vote instead of three.
if you want to do the early voting.
No, I don't. I always stand in
Okay.
line. No.
So it's.
That way it tells me
it's
what's
early
going
voting.
on.
The early voting is new next year.
Okay.
So they really don't know what's going on.
Of course not.
You know,
This would
they-
be the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
it's a
they-
problem.
They eliminated the option of Bath Charter Township being included as an early voting site.
So for us, we still go to DeWitt.
Yeah, just for early voting.
Just, right, which I don't. So everything else is going to remain the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Except we're gonna have an AV county board. You're gonna create an AV county board, which means.
Which you and I have talked about this
Yes,
before.
if we have an AV
That's-
county board.
Makes sense.
We will get our numbers to the county faster.
So the rescinding is only for
The vote
vote
that we did.
that we did, not for the AV.
No.
Because
No.
that, you and I have always talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a positive plus thing to do. And finding the people to do it, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Okay.
Yeah. Any more discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other discussion?
I just have a comment.
Yes,
I think we should start a pool to see how many changes they're gonna make between
a lot.
now and election
Oh,
time.
trust me, it'll happen, now that you know you can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna make a lot of
I've
changes.
known it for a long time, but
And-
now you
and
know it can be
Thanks for staying
done.
on top of it, Brenda, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Not being on the first line.
Ms.
I think that's it. Go ahead.
Ms. Kellerman?
Oh, read the motion
I
again?
read it,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
To rescind the August 7th, 2023 vote to partner with Clinton
Yes,
County to
yes,
become an
yes.
early voting, okay, sorry. So yes, Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bensy?
Yes,
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
well, I'm sorry you came to us in the first place.
She was trying to be on top of it.
I was trying to be on top of it and it didn't work. So,
It happens.
The
All right.
first time of anything.
We're at 14, which is new business. Items for discussion and introduction. The 2024 budget recommendations.
Thank you. So the budget for 2024, my recommendation was issued on Friday, September 1st. On the website, anyone wishing to get a copy of that can come to the township office, or we can email that to them. Accompanying that budget recommendation was a memo. I tried to provide more information of questions that were asked last year, more upfront in the process so that we were able to work through an understanding of what was before you. Estimated revenues at this time are going to increase over 2023 by about $109,000. General fund revenues are expected to increase, what I was trying to say is that property taxes are projected to increase $109,000. General fund revenues are expected to increase by $246,000, almost $247,000 for over 2023. Estimated expenditures, and I listed each one of the departments in the general fund, are listed there for you to review. We can go through those when we begin the process of going page by page. In addition, I highlighted some additional areas that are of concern and that we will need to take special note of as we move through this process, including employees. I designated that they would receive a 3% increase in wages. Eligible employees will also receive longevity increases. At this time, benefits, I'm told, are expected to increase by double digits. Last year, they increased by 15%. I used the 15% as the increase in this draft budget, and I'm hoping that it's much lower and comes in more like 10%, 11%, but I've been told to expect double-digit increases. In addition, there were new positions that were created by this board, I believe at the last meeting, in the clerk's department, the assessing department, and the police department. The fire department, in addition to the 2 full-time positions, are requesting 2 additional full-time employees, which would bring their full-time employees, responders to 4. And then an issue that we've been delving into is the employee contribution to the township's defined benefit, which is our retirement plan, through MERS, which stands for the Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan. is expected to increase from 19.96 to 25.46% on January 1st, 2024. This is creating an issue, I believe, of retaining employees, quality employees, and possibly being able to recruit employees for fire department, police department, because 25% they'll know right off the top of their check is going to be put into their contribution. I do understand that this is a program the township decided to be a part of approximately 30 years ago. But at this time, it's becoming a bigger burden for township employees to bear. And we've had conversations, I've had conversations with both employees and the bargaining units about possible fixes. So in the meantime, we are waiting 30 business days for MERS to run some calculations and actuarials of some ways that we could fix this situation. And we will await those actuarials, the results of those actuarials. In addition, elections, 2024, as we all know, is a presidential election year, which is our biggest election year that we have here in the township. And implementing the changes as a result of Proposal 22-2, there will be a significant increase in election expenditures. The special projects, I tried to pull out the additional things that were part of the budget recommendation and highlight for you what those changes would be. The first being a township website redesign. I've included maintenance, repairs, and improvements to township buildings and facilities. I've also included vehicle and equipment purchases, additional infrastructure projects which will benefit the community, including Webster Road Corridor Project, Safe Routes to School, DDA sidewalk improvements, planning for Chandler Road Corridor projects, which will occur, the planning will occur in 2024, but the project will occur in 2025, sewer lining and manhole repair, and then the large facility improvements that we have currently going on over at SCUMA, which we are part of the sewer authority there. And then in addition to that, also later on the agenda, I included the potential capital improvements and use of ARPA funds that are available to us.
Do we get to ask questions with this, or should we wait until the budget?
I don't know how this board will choose to go through this process. I'm very
Okay.
interested in that, if it's page by page.
I hope so.
Thought that was very helpful
hope
last
that
year,
would
being
be-
able to go page by
Yeah.
page and discuss each department and what was changing, the highlights that were changing in each department. So that is my hope and my recommendation, but that's ultimately up to this board.
But these particular things that you have.
Yeah, if you-
Do we ask now, or do we wait?
They're probably part of the budget discussion later.
I'm sure
You
that would be
want us-
very comfortable.
You want to start tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'd like
Go
to start
ahead.
with some questions.
Okay.
Number one, what has this board spent the $240,914? What has this township board spent that kind of money on?
So the largest thing that we spend that money on is our liability insurance and our.
Oh, for the, okay, insurance,
Please let me flip to that section.
okay.
So the largest item is insurance and bonds at a cost of $143,750. The rest of it is salaries for the trustees, salaries for the committee members, benefits, which is just FICA, Social Security, the withholding that we do from checks, contractual and professional services, such as having legal counsel at board meetings,
Okay.
is in there. In addition to that, dues and memberships for the Michigan Townships Association and the educational benefits we receive. And then just an amount I put in because of course next year's an election year and we may have people that want to take advantage of additional education.
Seriously? I mean, president, board members? would like
Present
to
board
get-
members
okay.
and
Additional-
potentially new board members that join us in November.
Okay. The other thing is, what have I spent $25,935 on? Please check that one out.
Sure, on
Can I-
page 7 of the budget that
No, and
you,
then I'm pretty much done. For-
I just, these are projected, not what you've done.
This is for next year.
This
No,
is next year's
I know
budget.
this is, but in that process, it's still, what am I gonna spend 25,000 on?
So
I
the
understand
largest
that.
part of
Yes,
yours would
thank
be
you.
the salary for the supervisor at $19,230.
If that
Benefits for
passes.
that, that's
Okay.
correct, if that passes.
Okay.
And the next amount would be education and training at $1,000.
I pay my own.
I do understand that, but
Okay.
as much
Okay.
as
So
you
whatever
are here
was left in
currently,
this, in 23's account, wouldn't you just move that over?
no, that goes back to the general
Okay,
fund
goes
fund
back to the
balance.
general fund.
So we start over every year.
Okay, nope, that helped me out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you have a number, and I'm sorry if I missed it in here, the total fund balance you're projecting to use in this budget?
At this time, the number is somewhat less than expected because it was pointed out to me that I failed to include the number for the police benefits, so that will change this number. I thought I did have that number in here. Operating transfers out to both police and fire, which is considered the public safety fund, is over $660,000. And then a transfer to the senior center of over $155,000.
But the general fund balance you're projecting to use?
That's
That's all general fund balance?
correct.
Okay. And no more, just those two departments?
At this time, yes, that's correct.
It's 155,000? Is that what it?
No, plus
Plus-
662.
Yeah.
Police and fire.
Okay. And you're sick, oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a suggestion to the board that we follow pretty much the same procedure that we've been real successful in following for the last few years, where we go page by page through this. And all board members can get their questions answered as we go through the budget.
It takes
That
a
would
lot of
be my-
time.
that would be
Nope, I
my
agree with that
suggestion.
100%. It'll always be open, correct? Okay. All right, that was for introduction, discussion, so thank you for the suggestion. I happen to agree with it, believe it or not.
I do as well.
I know, works out better that way. Also, under that, items for discussion, introduction, is going to be, hang on here, the American Rescue Plan.
Thank you. Discussing the American Rescue Plan, I have indicated that I would like this board to take an action tonight to either rank or indicate proposals which they're interested in, and would like to allocate a balance of ARPA funds to. I've listed at the top of the memo the projects that were previously approved by the Board of Trustees to utilize ARPA funds, which includes purchase of property on Park Lake Road, mailers for the senior center Share Your Opinion, a City Pulse advertisement for that same events, a consultant for community dialogues for the senior center, and an architect for the senior center. After that, police body cameras, the paving, mill and fill of Ann Drive, Gary Lane, and Timothy Lane, firefighter turnout gear, and 2 Lucas devices which assist with CPR for a total of $628,167.92. That leaves the board with a balance to determine what to do with next of $738,038.01.
What are you asking tonight for?
So I would like to know, I have suggested ARPA projects, it's hard to say. These are all of the ideas that were forwarded to my office, recommendations made, including protective shields for the police department, sidewalks on Park Lake Road, premium pay for police officers, premium pay for firefighters and emergency medical first responders, outdoor emergency sirens, keyless entry and security cameras, expansion of the senior center, a one-time sidewalk fix, and I think Mr. Curtis, when he was here previously, had indicated he would be interested in having DDA funds. That was a suggestion he made to reduce sidewalks in the DDA area that was previously at the authority.
The big question is, why is this under introduction and discussion? Why isn't it under items for action?
Because you can't fund them all. So
But you're asking us
I'm asking you to
for
let
an
me know.
introduction and,
So I'm asking you to
discussion.
let me know which items you would like me to bring forward for your consideration. If you want them all, I'll bring them all, but
I'm just a little confused as to why isn't it, so an introduction, discussion, but you want an action on it?
I'm looking for interest in which projects you would like to fund, that you would like to review for further consideration for funding.
No, I understand you have all these, and I appreciate that.
I just want you to prioritize, I
Okay,
guess, or let
can we
me
do
know.
that in 2 weeks, in our next?
Yeah,
Okay, because
yeah, something like that.
I would think that would make sense. This is an introduction and discussion, so in order to prioritize, it's going to have to be
Sure.
the next meeting under items for action.
Brenda's got a question then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we get more information on each one? Like, what is the cost? What is the project?
We do have, I do have the proposals for each of them, so I will bring those forward to you. Some are extensive. The police premium pay is probably a memo put together of 6 pages. Some were
That's
just
okay.
emails, some were letters. So I'll bring those forward to you if that's how you choose that she would like the information.
Well, that would certainly help. I mean, again, this is an introduction discussion, not an action item. And even for us to have an action item would make it a little tough to determine what they are. So if we do that in 2 weeks and then another 2 weeks, we'll, so like the 1st of October?
Sure.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Nope.
Did we allocate anything for broadband out of ARPA funds?
We did, but then we rescinded that
We
based on
rescinded it.
if there was any benefit to Bath Charter Township directly.
Correct.
And at this time, there hasn't
Okay, so
been a
we haven't did
proposal.
anything else besides
Correct.
that? Okay, thank you.
All right. Just so I'm understanding, the first meeting in October, oh, hang on a second. First meeting in, oh, is that what you're? Thank you.
I'm hard to help.
Hang on a second. So make sure I'm understanding, it's the 1st of October that you're going to be bringing to us
Actually, I could bring
An
it back to you
action
on
for
the
item.
18th of
the 8th,
September.
well, September, we'll have the information, and it got 2 weeks for us to digest what you're asking us to say for. And then the 1st of October is when we do an items for action. Whether
That-
we
if
vote it up or
that's-
down.
Yes,
Okay.
we could, that could be one way. Yes,
Okay.
we could.
The other thing that I had to bring up, because you did bring that up with the, just a minute, oh, I know, your arm's gonna get tired, hang on. It had to do with the security poles on the north end. You were supposed to have sites today?
So Kevin, ordinance compliance and fire marshal and assistant fire chief Kevin Douglas, as if he doesn't have enough titles or hats. And I met with the company that handles our
Right.
outdoor security. He indicated he would have an entire proposal for us by the end of this week. So I was unable to bring that back to you
No, I
at this
understood
time.
that, but I mean the site locations in the north end.
He is
That
going
you
to.
said was going to,
He is going
Okay.
to propose a plan that will cover all of Bath, and then, which he tells me is a complete total of 12 sirens.
oh, you're gonna do an additional.
This
'Cause
board.
we only have 4 right now.
Well, yes, so this
Okay.
board can determine if it wants to do 2, or if you would like to work towards the full implementation plan of 12. I'm going to bring that back to this board.
Just
but
because we wanted to have something in the north end,
I-
this is what's
I asked
happening?
the question, what would the optimal coverage
Okay.
be, and he told me 12.
I know, but what we were looking for was,
I know, so you
Something-
will receive.
okay.
You will
That's-
receive the complete packet of information, and if you only choose 2, we'll do 2.
or one would be fine.
Or 1.
That would be
But
fine.
we have a couple
Okay.
of real
Okay.
areas that aren't covered by those sirens at this time, as you know.
Nope, that's absolutely correct. Nope, thank
So
you.
that will be coming back to
So
you.
that was what you had said, so it'll be Kevin and whoever else that'll come in 2 weeks
Correct.
to give us
Yes.
some
We
other
will have a plan
information.
that, for your consideration.
So we're
yes.
going to table this again until 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Do you have the information, the amounts and the proposals for all of this ARPA stuff right now?
With me, no, I do
No, I
not.
mean, do you have it all?
Yes.
Could you
Well,
send,
minus,
Jerry, hang on, hang on.
It's part of that
Hang
answer,
on.
'cause
I know what she's moving around over here and I know what
Don't
she's
flow
referring
your
to.
arms. For God's sakes, don't do that.
I don't have
No.
numbers for the senior center, so I think that's what she's referring to, that she probably has a number for the senior center.
do you know when that'll be done, Sherry?
they're coming, the architects and the second in charge of the whole architect firm is coming to our meeting in 2 weeks. And they got waylaid, everything was slow, so they're going to have it all together to bring to the meeting and present to everybody.
So we really won't have the entirety of everything until 2 weeks in our next meeting.
Right, that's why
Okay.
wanted to
Are
mention.
we gonna
that
get through the budget in that length of
this
time?
is-
I don't think we're doing the budget in that meeting.
Don't think, well, no,
Well,
but
we were gonna
we're
talk
doing-
about it, and we don't have those numbers.
Because that's,
If I can get them before that, maybe I could mail them out, if I get them.
We could distribute that,
Yeah,
if you wanted to
if
give
I
me
can
that
get 'em, I'll-
information.
Yeah, I mean, that was gonna be my suggestion, if Karen had the information.
Yeah,
You
I'll
don't
work
have to
on
wait
it.
2 weeks to get it, she could send it
Yeah,
out,
it'd
but
be
I don't
nice
want her
if we
to
had
send it out
numbers.
without your piece to it.
I'll try to get the numbers, and then they'll present it to us when they're here, but if I can get numbers, I sure will.
Yeah, don't rush, we want it to be
Yeah,
right and
right.
what you all,
yes,
you know,
Joe.
support.
Thank you. We have the
my
right
issue.
as a board to adjust these numbers in the future. So, in 2 weeks, we might not have this all locked down. And if something came up after that that was more important, we could adjust this list. So we're not really locked into that. The other thing is, I looked at here, is somewhere in the new budget, I haven't read it all yet, I've read some of it, do we have the strategic plan budgeted for in the new budget somewhere?
I do not.
We do not? Could that be an expense for ARPA funds? Can you check on that? Because,
Yes, I can,
you check on that?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys, good discussion. C, which would be 14, new business, dealing with the capital improvement plan.
I did bring this back to you again for discussion. Mr. Reich is here if you chose to have additional questions for him. I believe trustee Fewens Bliss also participated in that process, as did possibly other people sitting in the room here that I have not identified. So I brought it back for discussion again.
Good.
In the budget, I have planned $50,000 for the nature trail. So if anything else is picked up out of here, that would be at your discretion. I know that some of you have indicated you're interested in the security camera and card swipe access. So it's here for discussion.
I am really glad we're doing another discussion on it, because I've been diving in this as much as I can with all the other things that have been added with the agenda, some really important stuff. So I do appreciate another 2 weeks to look at it. So thank you for that, because that's definitely, I would have voted to be able to read this for another couple weeks. I did talk to Miles, just briefly, with regards to this plan, and the strategic, and the comprehensive, and, the whole ball wax that it went with. It was very interesting, and again, I'm going to go back to this question, because these projects costs are coming in from bids from DPW, is that correct? These are not bids that were sent out, these are bids that.
So I do
or
know
dollars amount.
that Ben relies on contacts that he's made in the
Okay.
industry, the differing industries, to collect prices for these things, for the projects that are in here. So they are not just DPW, but they have professional numbers behind them.
But this will go back to the same question we had with, or I had, with the bids themselves, whether they're, comparative bids, or where are they, or we haven't seen them. This dollar amount, we're just being
Until
fed
you
this dollar
decide
amount.
to
Okay.
take them forward further, there wouldn't be a bid
Well,
process.
This, all right, suppose this Wiswasser Park multi-sports
Mm-hmm.
court, which nobody really wanted, but you've got it in here. Suppose instead of 47,000 is 20. but we don't know that. We know it's 47. Might we look at the 20 as more of a, do you understand what I'm trying to say? When I'm told, when I'm spoon-fed these numbers, and that's literally how I,
So I do know this number is from the agency that installs this. So
Okay.
I think that's a pretty accurate number.
okay, then that should be stated, that this was from source of financing is the Bath Township General Fund. Planning Commission comments, and we don't have any at this point,
Because the money would come from either the Township General Fund or ARPA dollars to
oh,
fund
it didn't
this
say that, it
project.
just says source of financing. It says, or.
So they're
ARPA.
asked as part of the CIP process to identify the source of financing. So they identify either the Township General Fund or ARPA funds or whatever.
So this isn't correct then, when it says the project cost, whatever it is, and then it says source of financing, general fund.
That's how we would pay for it.
So we would pay for it up front, and then the ARPA funds would be used to? Okay, help me out.
It just means, how would we pay for it? And if it means we would use our Township General Fund
Okay.
balance, which is our dollars in excess that we
Right.
have put, like our savings account, would we use that money? Would we seek DNR grants? Or would we seek to potentially use ARPA funds for that project? So what pots of money are being used
So
to
the money isn't
finance?
important. Money's not the important thing. What's important then is what it is that we want to do, not the
Correct,
dollar
the
amount.
project, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Sure, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, I just stuck my hand up. Question, I guess, for you. I was told senior center was on the CIP in starting back in 2016, and now it looks like it's not. I don't know if I'm completely confused or.
So it was, and it was a project that was carried over each year. I think with the work of the architect, I don't believe that a capital improvement application was placed this year for that project, but it has been a request for ARPA.
I thought we missed that deadline. Boy, now I'm really confused.
For the CIP process, you did miss the deadline.
Okay.
For the senior center.
That's what this
For
is.
ARPA, it was not missed.
Okay.
It was,
Oh, okay,
I
ARPA's
received,
not missed, okay.
I received an email
Okay.
indicating there was interest in having that included in the ARPA fund
So we
consideration.
missed the CIP, not the ARPA.
CIP,
Okay,
not the
My
ARPA.
confusion. Okay, thank you.
So usually this is handled by this coming back to you at your next meeting and you vote, the board's vote is to accept it or receive it. It is not an endorsement of, we are going to pick up these projects and move forward with them. It is an acceptance or a receive of this plan on file, which can be used to inform your decisions on the budget going forward.
What's the difference?
You're not agreeing to do any of the projects. You're saying, we accept this plan from the planning commission.
Oh, just this information?
Yes.
That's here,
Correct.
not,
But it's not saying we're committing ourselves to doing any of the projects contained herein. If you want to do that, that'll be a separate action that this board makes
Okay.
at a separate time,
okay.
probably during the budget process or the ARPA process, so.
Oh, okay.
Would you, in asking about the ARPA, I'm having a moment of, would you like the people that submitted projects for consideration of ARPA, and I know I'm going back one, but would you like them to be invited to come speak to their ARPA request?
Oh, I don't think that's a bad idea, but hey, I'm only one.
It might take a little longer, but I
Absolutely.
feel like you would be able to hear from them and ask them questions. I'm seeing head shakes, yes.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you think,
I think that's a good
Ryan?
idea.
I don't necessarily need that, but I'm happy to listen and ask questions.
Sure you don't. Okay.
I'm
Joe?
okay.
Okay. I just feel like that would give each person an opportunity to justify their ask.
It's not a person, I'm
It's,
assuming.
it's on behalf of an entity,
Entity,
but
right.
usually there's a representative of that group that would come.
That'll be the next meeting?
I may, depending on, because the list is a little bit more extensive, I might have to break them across 2 meetings.
Two
Yeah.
meetings.
So I would invite the first half and then maybe the second half.
Okay, nope. Don't touch me, but put your hand up.
Can you still give us the written information?
Yes,
so
I
that we
will,
can-
I will provide the written information, but I just had that notion that that might be helpful to have the people come speak, the representative of each
Right.
group come speak.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, with the information, that's a good question. The written information will be for the group that's going to speak, or would it be for all of them?
I can just speak, like Judy's in the audience. Judy, on behalf of the Senior Services Advisory
Right.
Board, spoke to the senior center expansion.
Right.
She, as the representative of that group, I would
So-
include her information, then she would have the opportunity
So
to
it would
speak
be
to
for
it.
it will be for the ones who are speaking, not for all of them. So we get information on the people who are speaking at that particular time. Then you withhold the information for the
Oh,
other.
I'm hearing others say they want all of the
Yes,
information.
that's what I'm asking.
Okay, you can have all the I will
That's-
provide all the
okay.
information, but then I will invite them to speak in 2
In
different.
2 different, gotcha.
groups.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Now what do I do with it? Hang on 1 second, I'll have it. All right. ARPA. We've done the CIP, the capital improvement. Township versus personal email accounts. Oh, this ought to be really good.
So I'm providing this information as educational. I consulted with the Michigan Townships Association on the use of personal email. There are a couple of you that utilize personal email for township business. And I wanted you to have the information, so there was an understanding of, there are no legal restrictions or prohibitions on a township officials using personal or township-provided emails. What you need to know about that is that because your use of personal email, you need to be aware that if there's a FOIA request, you may be asked to provide emails pertaining to a particular issue. You would then indicate to whoever the staff person is that reaches out to you, whether you have documents that are relevant to that FOIA or not. And then the township certifies the record.
Absence of record?
Absence of records, thank you. So that the requester, the original FOIA requester understands that there are no documents relevant to that FOIA request. So this is really being provided as information for you, but it is still the township's responsibility to store and be aware of emails because they are records of the township and used in township business. And they are subject, if you use a personal email account, to FOIA.
That's an interesting thought. Who is the FOIA coordinator?
It's our clerk, but we often delegate just
I was just going to say, because
depending on,
we've received 2 from you.
in her
that's why I
absence,
asked.
I
Your
assist.
absence? Okay. Okay. She's
Yeah.
been gone.
Yep.
Yeah, we actually have 4.
Ryan
Yeah,
is-
so I know, just hang on. So the coordinators, there's actually 4, you
For
said. Okay.
myself, Karen, April, and Samantha.
And they're all FOIA coordinators.
They all can, well, they can help getting answers to the FOIAs.
No, I understand
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
but who's the coordinator? You're the coordinator. Okay, so they're under you. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm done.
It seems like we don't have policy for how the township would store emails that come to us personally or to get. Like, you've never asked me, Ryan, do you have anything in your personal email that's FOIA about X, Y, Z?
I actually have.
Oh, well, I missed that email. So do you have a process then that because I've never given you emails to like keep.
So no, because it's my
Keep small.
understanding generally that
You should.
you don't use personal, but we do ask, there have been instances where it's been recommended to ask each board member, especially trustees, do you have any responsive records to this request? And that may be in your township email, or it may be in a personal email.
So I hear that, and that makes sense. But I read in here that the township is still supposed to retain the record. Did I misread that?
That's correct. I would defer to legal because I don't know a way in which, lacking a policy, you're correct, we do not have a policy. I've included a couple of policies here that MTA recommended that we utilize to have those records, but we do not currently have one. So you're correct.
Yeah, that makes sense that we would have one, otherwise we don't retain them.
Correct.
Except for one issue, and I'd have to verify this with legal. Statutorily, they say you must keep them for a certain length of time. So even if you have a policy or you don't have a policy, that still falls within the state's realm of saying what you do with your, for example, ours is a charter township. It'll say that, what we can do or what we can't do with documents. So what you're saying then, if I'm understanding what trustee's saying, is that because we don't have it in writing, therefore it doesn't exist, but it does exist. It exists with the state.
I believe you're referring to the local government retention file. There's a substantial document that the state has provided that explains, how long you keep a document, et cetera. That does exist. That is the driving force, I think, that may have been referenced as well in the superintendent's memo about ensuring compliance with record retention. I think what I heard is that the township doesn't have a specific record retention policy, in particular, not one that reaches to emails. And so I think the concern is how do we demonstrate or confirm our compliance with the record retention requirements? We don't have any agreement about how that's going to be done.
Which means it's not clear, it's not spoken, so that means everything. It doesn't mean just
Someone
one
could certainly
thing.
make an
Yeah,
argument that the
I mean,
township has said, come get it,
Come
however
get
long.
it, it's yours.
Correct.
Okay.
I would still default to the
Okay.
state requirements on what those are. So, sometimes they're creation plus 6 years, or creation plus 60 days, or
Right.
whatever that may be. And I think what I understood from the superintendent's memo and materials was perhaps a recommendation is coming forward at some point to consider this matter and consider adopting a record retention policy that does address computer and email, so that everybody's on the same page. Doesn't matter where you land, so long as we get a way to have a system in place.
It does make a difference how it's worded, because depending on how you want to do it, you can go to the state and fall. So if our policy states that, we're in compliance with the state of Michigan saying, but we would like to see a year instead of 6 months.
Yep.
Okay. Normally, it's tougher to go more restrictive than it is less restrictive, but the state asks for more than a year. But anyway, what I guess I'm trying to say is, even with a policy, unless it's specific to following what the state does, it's still a loophole, it's still an open.
I'm not sure that I see the
Okay.
loophole.
Okay.
And maybe if you can
That's
explain it
okay.
another way, but how I understand this to apply to the board, if we can be direct, is to say that there is a record retention requirement from the state that the township is required to comply with, that there is an identified concern about how do we demonstrate compliance with that when there isn't access or a system in place to provide access and record keeping. I think the example the trustee gave was, how do I get, if I received an email, let's say Lizzie happens
Okay.
to be a Bath Township resident and sends the trustee an email to his personal email, and he engages in communication, might that constitute a public record? One would suggest yes.
Yeah,
And the
it
question is,
does.
how does he, if he knows that the requirement is that it needs to somehow be provided to the township, how does he do that? If you adopt a policy, you can put in those guardrails and processes that you all agree on. You're the policy makers.
Sure.
You know you must comply with the state requirements, but what clarifications do you want to make for your own board about the expectations of when those materials are provided, or how access is requested, or whatever that may be?
Is this part of a new I mean, this is something that hasn't come up before. I personally have never done, I mean, I always used, believe it or not, until I was kicked out of the office, I always used, township mail. Never occurred to me not to, unless I had something to say to somebody that I didn't want monitored or whatever, which wouldn't, that wouldn't fall under what you're saying, even though it's an issue that they ask me because I'm the superintendent, but their issue is something that has to do within the township. That's a long stretch. It'd take you a while to get that one from me. But what I'm trying to say is that it's always been the township email. So what is it that's causing a problem now? It's always been that. Is that because we don't have a retention policy? We don't know when to keep it? We don't know what's happening to our emails, where they're going, or what's happening to them? Somebody
I would
has
offer
those.
that because
Okay.
you've been using a personal email, there's no way for us to, when you create documents as a result of your position as supervisor, we don't currently have access to those, and you're not, unless there's a FOIA request where
Okay.
we're coming out and saying, supervisor, how do you have emails pertaining to this subject?
But that works
We're not
two
even-
ways. That
we're
works
not-
two ways.
But we're not even,
Okay.
because there hasn't been a FOIA yet to ask you, do you have something relevant to
No,
this?
but what you're saying, if I'm understanding it, is that I need to give you information,
But we
but do you
haven't-
give me information?
Do you want my emails?
Sure, why not?
I'm just
It ought to
saying
be
that
really
because
interesting.
you're using a system that is not the township system,
No,
there's,
No, what you were saying was if the product is produced,
we have no way of retaining it
then you have no
currently.
way of retaining what that is.
Correct.
So my question is, for example, our policies, I was given a notebook, and both you guys, and you both admitted to it, it's about yay thick. My policy notebook that I have is about this thick of our policies. So what was given to me was not really what we have. So I guess the information exchange that I'm looking at, you're telling me as my personal email that I need to conform to that, which I've never been out of confirmation for it. It's always been conformed to that. But anytime I had something that I personally wanted to say, I would not use the township email.
And I'm not referring to your personal email.
Well, that's what I'm
So
saying,
it's
but you
the-
are. You're saying that if for some reason, which I don't, but if for some reason I have something that needs to be with the township, then obviously it's done on a personal computer. That makes my computer accessible
Needs your email accessible.
to the email accessible. But what if it's done in a WordPerfect? I don't have okay. My emails are, here we go. My email is what needs to be sent, and I get that.
So I actually think the confusion that you're articulating is exactly why the superintendent has presented this for information, so that this board can decide how far are we
Okay.
going to ensure our compliance with the record retention requirements. It is an issue that I have seen in a lot of communities where there's a question about, someone, let's say I exclusively use my personal email, and then, and you submit a
No.
FOIA to something, and the I'm sorry?
No, I'm sitting here shaking my head going, I can't relate to that.
Okay, well, I wasn't actually done with the example,
No,
but.
I know, I'm sitting, I
Okay.
know, but you're saying it.
I have, and in fact, in neighboring communities, this has come up, this is not new, that there sometimes is a question about the township's right to even ask that question of, do you have any materials that relate to this? Because one of the many questions that comes up in responding or deciding how to respond to a FOIA request is whether the document requested is in fact a public record. And so you could be entirely correct that you have material in your email that does not constitute a public record, but it is a difficult thing for the township to know. And I think the township, what I heard through the superintendent's office at least, is trying to accomplish is clarity about how are you, for instance, or whomever, I don't know who else is using personal emails, how are you all going to be on the same page about, for instance, if the clerk gets a FOIA, and the FOIA request is for Supervisor Howe's emails to Liz emails, right? I'm
They're there.
I'm not a good example because
I know,
I'm an
but you're-
attorney, right? But
But they're there.
let's say I was a citizen. Let's say
Yeah.
Lizzie the citizen.
No, you do it on the phone.
Correct, you do.
That's what you do.
And she says to you, can I see those emails to see if they qualify as a public record? Right
Sure.
now, there's no policy that explains to you why she should even be making that request. I know you are well educated on the subject, but I think what I hear is they want to all be on the same page about how to handle their own, yours, whomever.
Of Township, not, the personal piece is, the part you're thinking is used more often than the Township.
I'm actually not
Okay.
making a statement about that.
No,
It's
I'm
more
just,
about,
I'm working that through.
it's about the fact that we all sitting here, because you have said to us before, I've heard at other meetings that you use your personal email, which,
Yes, I do.
as the superintendent's memo
Not for this
correctly,
work.
she correctly notes that there's nothing that prohibits you from using your personal email. The only time it
That's
becomes
correct.
a wrinkle is when the township needs to secure something that is in fact a township record because it's a public record. That's the issue.
All right, then securing it by making the statement that that is confidential on it, because when you send an email, it goes out to God and everybody. I mean, seriously, there's no such thing as a computer that's ever been safe. It doesn't
You're talking
exist.
FOIA.
So.
It is through FOIA,
Right.
yes.
So
How do
someone,
we get-
well, that's what I'd say. So
there's a
someone
two-
has to ask
Yes.
through a FOIA request.
So there's two parts to that we
okay.
work through when we receive a FOIA, and the clerk can speak to this as well. There's the ask of, do you have any documents that pertain to this FOIA request?
Okay.
And then, if you think so, and you provide these emails, then we go through them to see if they're relevant to that search, and if they need to be redacted in any way because of privilege or other concerns, other personal information that may need to be redacted. But right now, we have no way of doing that.
And that would be done by you.
It could be done by the
Or the
clerk
Or
or any of her
those
designees.
four. Well, there's four, sorry about that. Don't want to touch you.
But
I
the other
touched
piece
her.
is the
Don't just
retention,
know
right?
that.
It's
Correct.
not just
So-
if a FOIA comes in, but you meaning the township is supposed to
Correct.
retain our emails as well.
Correct.
So like we have to have some sort of flow, whatever a policy would say, monthly or annually to like get them to you.
'Cause I could
To
dump
be
them
kept.
off the computer. They would
I
be
was
there.
gonna say,
Wouldn't
how-
be there.
Yes, trustee Kellerman, you're correct that, some of the, I have a personal email too. I go through Gmail. They have a system where they delete them after a
Yeah.
period of time.
Right.
We don't know if that's compliant with the statute. So it's little stuff. It
Okay.
feels persnickety because it is.
It is. You're right.
And I think that's part of why I
There's no black
understand,
and white.
we didn't have any prior discussion about what was coming on this topic, but what I have seen other townships experience is they want to understand what their responsibilities are in the retention world and what should be expected of them if there's to be a FOIA request. And so you have materials in front of you for this board to consider or to say, we're not interested, no thank you. That all is up to you folks as policymakers, but I think that's the issue, the sort of bifurcated issue being described.
Does that take the place then of our giving up our emails, literally, to being monitored with our emails?
I don't think those
So-
are the same thing.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So, okay.
That's a complex question. Oh, my.
Okay.
Marie,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
that's okay. Could we ask the superintendent to draft up a recommended policy for us?
You can ask Lizzie, she's the one that'll do it.
Well, perhaps.
Between, I just, I think, boy, you're gonna have a lot of writing between.
Well,
That's a-
I would say that I'll volunteer and then volunteer her that
There you go.
we
That works for me.
delegate.
Good word.
That we could certainly collaborate on reviewing the materials that the superintendent has provided, and I can also provide input on things we have seen go awry, or other questions that maybe should be presented to you before, paper comes to you. But we can certainly collaborate on that. I'd be happy to work with staff.
Probably been brought up other places
All
in
over.
the past.
Yes.
Lots of times, I can imagine.
So-
but.
Yeah, that's
And
what
where,
I'm
where
thinking.
assumption is that you have a, like for us, for example, we have a Bath Township computer that's given to us, and we're supposed to use it, which I do. And then you have your personal computers at home, that you do your Facebook, that you do your, emails to other people or whatever. That's the part that you're having a problem with, correct? Is the private emails that people will be doing
If you're using it to conduct
to
business on
conduct
behalf of the
business.
township.
Okay. How do you know if you're doing, What's the list of conduct for the, how do you know you're doing it for the township?
There's
So
a good description in the packet,
I saw that, that's what I
which,
wondered.
which included more than I would have guessed.
Yes, that's exactly right, okay. Okay, got it. That was painful, but very helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was,
Thanks for hanging in there with us.
no, you hanging in with us. Where are we at now? Oh, here we go. And email accounts. Now, we have items for action. These are where you guys are going to have to vote.
Yes.
Setting special meetings for the 2024 budget.
So
already has it in
I
his
would
mind
like
what he
to, I would like to twofold this request because I
Okay.
still think there is unfinished business pertaining to the board rules of order that I don't want to lose sight of.
Right.
And the other issues that have been on the agenda. So I don't want to lose sight of those. I want to make progress on those, but I also want to make progress on the budget. As Mr. Benzie indicated earlier, I would be happy, I think it worked really well last year. We went page by page, we talked about each department, each fund, and I would like to continue to do that. So if, for the time being, you wanted to continue possibly the special meetings prior to the meeting and have board rules of order, and then during the meeting, we set aside time to go through 10, 15 pages of the budget.
Yeah. Are you serious?
We actually did last year. We did several
we
times.
did.
We
I
made
understand
through
that.
10
We did.
pages. So I'm just offering a twofold solution for us to continue our work on the board rules of order. If you want to suspend that until we get through the budget, I don't know what the pleasure of this board is.
I don't know if any guys talked to anybody about it?
We better get the budget done.
All right, the budget's due in December, right?
We have to hold the public hearing by December 15th.
We have to get the budget done, and we all know how long that takes.
Oh, no, we can do that in half an hour.
No.
You could, but you might not be happy with it.
Not bother me any, I just,
Anyway, I guess I'll make a suggestion that in the past, what we've done is we've done the budget an hour before our regular meeting, okay? And then maybe we could do some board rules at the regular meeting after we've worked on the budget for an hour between 5 and
how about we
6.
reverse that?
Yes,
Okay,
because I don't want to lose sight of it either, but I know how long it takes to do the budget,
yeah, a long time.
yeah. So
Right.
that's my suggestion. Would you like that in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Do we want to work on the budget at the next meeting, due to the fact we don't have the ARPA information?
I think we could continue to work on the budget without the
ARPA's?
ARPA information.
Okay.
I think there,
Things are always added.
it's, yes, it's a fund.
interesting process.
It's a fund that is part of the special use funds, so I think it will come later in the process, but
Okay,
I think we could still make progress on the general fund.
okay.
So I'll make a motion that before our regular board meetings, but from now until the budget is done, and it has to be done in December, that we meet at 5 o'clock on the nights of regular board meetings to discuss the budget from 5 to 6.
I second that motion.
Can I make an amendment to that motion?
Sure. What's your thoughts?
Why would you do it twice a month instead of 4 times a month?
Well, I think we can do it in 2 meetings a month.
Plus the board
You
rules.
got October, November.
Well, the board rules we would discuss during the regular board time.
That's what I'm saying, can we switch that and do the board minutes at 5 and the budget at 6?
No, I want to do the budget at 5. I know how much work it is.
Yeah, it is, it's a lot of work.
It's a tremendous amount of work.
Well, not tremendous, but it is a lot of work.
It's 5 meetings we have, so that's,
Until December 15th?
Until we're done.
No, is that,
I think that's.
I think it's 5 before, I think she's correct, before we have the public hearing on the
Okay.
15th.
so it has to be that week before.
I'm sorry.
6.
2, 3, 6.
Oh, it's 6.
Six?
We'll have
Oh,
6.
Okay,
So we have,
thank you. I didn't
6,
understand what you
yeah.
were saying.
so one in September.
Six,
That's their
yeah.
6th one.
Six.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so your motion is to do the budget at special
6.
meetings, and then do the board rules
At the regular
at the
meeting.
regular meeting. So how much time do you want to give to the board rules at a regular meeting?
I'm open.
Okay.
See what else.
That would probably depend on how much business we had to do at the regular board meeting.
Well, it all depends. That's very subjective. And I don't even get asked about it, so what do I know? All right, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to spend the full hour for the budget. And then just kind of play with the board minute, or the board rules. Okay. Will you be willing, you do the agenda instead of asking me about it, you do it. Is there a way of setting a certain amount of time aside, like from 6 to 7?
I
Or
would be
eight?
open to that, yeah.
Because that would make
Or
more sense to
an
me.
hour or 45, whatever, if there's a time frame or
Right.
just an hour
Well,
to hour.
if we don't go within the hour, if for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
we finish, you obviously can fill it with whatever
Mm-hmm.
the heck you've got for the agenda. But I'm just saying, that would help keep the agenda at a, otherwise, we'd be sitting here saying,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's after 9 o'clock, it's time to go until 10 or 11. So if we do a time frame on it, if you're able to say, all right, we're going to do 6 agenda items instead of 12, but we're going to
And leave
spend an
time
hour on it,
on
okay,
board
and then
rules.
you can fill it, okay, all right. All right, nope, because I was just checking details on what's your motion.
Do we get a second?
Yeah, it was
I did.
seconded by Jennifer.
So Joe, you had said from now until
We're
the
done
budget
with
is
the
done,
budget,
should I
yeah.
put a date in there? Should I put the December 15th in there?
December
It has to
15th.
be,
it has to
yeah,
be
it
done.
has to have a public
That
hearing.
you have to have the public hearing, and then you have to adopt the budget by the end of the calendar year.
So do we need to do it before, I'm sorry,
No,
Because
before December 15th then?
Yes,
yes.
yes, because
Yes.
we have to
December
publish for
4th, we
that.
have a meeting. The 18th is our next meeting, so before that meeting.
But if in
December,
any
we
way,
have to.
if in any way this group feels like
You
we're
can
not.
call a special meeting
Yes,
anytime.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, exactly. I agree with you. We could say there's more work to be done than there
Right.
is meetings. Let's call a special meeting in October, November, whatever it is.
Okay, so what date are we putting in there?
Well, December 4th is.
4th, is that what it
Yeah,
is?
December
4th? Okay.
4th is, because the next one would be the 18th. and
Okay.
We have to have it done before then.
Go ahead, and then I want to add to his agenda, or his motion. Go ahead.
I'm going to be out for our October meetings, so I won't be able to participate in the budget meetings, but I'll catch up watching the video. I don't want to slow us down.
But the budget will be, we film that, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay. All of October? Even Halloween?
I don't think we have a meeting on
I
Halloween.
know, but you said all of October.
That would be the 2nd and the 16th.
Yes. I
I will
just
be
wanted to make
unavailable
sure.
to you all of
I
October.
was just going to make sure that, when you said you're going to be out all of October. Okay. With the motion that you have, could we add to that you would actually put a time for a regular meeting in it so that that's where kind of, that's a cemented time, but that time doesn't have to be spent. In other words, if we get finished with the board rules, it can be filled, but at least it gives you that hour. So from 6 to 7?
I'm not seeing an hour in our regular board meetings to work on
Okay.
board rules.
What do you see?
Well, maybe 30 minutes at the max. That's at the regular meeting.
It could all change depending on what other emergent things occurred at that meeting.
Well,
So it
we
be
could,
variable.
I'm flexible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm
Let's be
just
flexible.
willing to put it on the agenda and take a look at the.
Well, you're
agenda
flexible,
for-
but that doesn't mean,
The agenda and say, okay, we got some time to talk about this tonight, maybe more than an hour.
I think we have to be flexible, it's most sensible.
Well, that's why I put the hour in there, so that you can come and go. I mean, you can do whatever the heck you want to do with it.
So a maximum of an hour at
That-
each meeting.
That would make sense. And then if it's not a maximum, that's fine. You fill it with whatever's on the agenda that needs to be filled.
Because I know there's quite a few ordinances coming from the planning department that we will have to go through.
I think
I
it
talked
would,
to Miles
it would
today.
fit
I hope we
very
get it
well.
before it's not just handed to you and said,
In,
here.
in agenda creation, it would fit perfectly under unfinished business, items for discussion. So it would be the first item of every board
right.
meeting. So I think we could accomplish what you're both trying to do.
I think that's, as long as there's a time frame there that said, because I don't
More than an hour.
think you can get through a budget or a board rule, but you do. So we'll take as much time as we need, is that what you're saying?
And, well, and I'm saying like that
Up to
evening,
1
if,
hour.
yes.
Okay.
And then you
Maximum.
decide
Up to an hour?
to
Up
move
to
on
1
from
hour.
there.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, let me read it back? You want me to read it back?
Are we ready? Set?
Well, as long as everybody understands it.
Okay.
After all that talking we went through, everybody does understand that you're gonna have the rules during the board
They're gonna
up to 1 hour. That's a max. After that point, you know, if you take it 30 minutes, you take it 30 minutes. But you can't take it an hour and 10 minutes.
I'm okay, I'm flexible on this.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure you understood it. I don't want
Is that the motion?
hindsight.
The motion was, we're gonna have the budget, we're gonna do that 1 hour before each regular Board of Trustee meeting between 5 and 6. And then at the regular Board of Trustee meetings, we'll have a maximum of 1 hour
Okay.
at the regular meeting to do the board meeting
The rules.
rules.
So special meeting for the budget
Thank
and regular meeting for the rules, okay?
That sound good? You set, guys?
As long
Mr.
as we
Ben?
all understand. Got it? Everybody? Okay.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes,
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, got it. All right, items for action B, and we're in B, small b, it's DDA property tax.
If she would like to, would you
Oh,
like to
it
take
doesn't,
this?
yeah, it doesn't matter. We need to pay the Downtown Development Authority taxes, and it is recommended that we pay it out of the DDA funds.
How much are the taxes?
The summer ones are $119.36.
119.36.
Yep, you have the bill right in your packet.
Nope, I saw that. Like, I initially thought that was my bill. I was gonna say, what's my bill doing in there? You know,
Sorry.
because darn, that looks
Now
good to
your
me.
bill.
I knew that wasn't. Okay. So what my question would be, that's on what property?
The one on Main Street.
There's a vacant Main Street property that
Vacant?
was, I
Do
think,
they have an
originally
address? Do they have an
donated by,
address for that?
no,
No,
it
it
doesn't
just
have
says
one.
Main Street vacant.
It was
Okay.
donated by Mr. Wisner.
No, I remember when it was done. Okay. So that's the Main Street. That's less than an acre, isn't it?
Yes, it's like .26.
It's only 119? That's interesting. Okay.
Well, the only ones collected are the state and county taxes for the summer.
Nope, I understand what I'm saying, that's just interesting math. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Who owns the piece of property?
So it's been transferred to the township, but I've been working with Chris Patterson of Fahey Schultz to actually move the property into our properties. We inherited it with the dissolution of the DDA, but we need to conduct some final paperwork to make that process complete.
So that as those leftover DDA funds are spent down over some amount of time, we would eventually run out.
Correct.
We would no longer have to pay this piece of.
Correct, it'll be ours and we won't have to pay taxes on it.
Okay.
So
Then I would
we are
move-
working towards completing that process.
Great. I would move to authorize the treasurer to pay the summer tax bill for the formerly DDA-owned property as described in our packet.
Well, out of
Second.
the
I
DDA.
was gonna say, do you write the check out yet?
once it's
In
given.
here? Okay, it's
Brenda and
not
I-
budget.
Brenda and I
Right,
issue checks and to
Right.
pay it, yeah.
that's what I, because when it
Through
was
accounts
figured it was
payable.
budget, okay. Accounts payable. How much do we have in that?
The DDA
Yeah.
account, there's like 175,000, less than that, I think, like 173.
Okay, about 100
Yeah.
ballpark figure.
Yeah,
173.
I haven't gotten
okay.
the statements yet for this month.
Huh, that's an interesting. That brings up another issue for another time.
Are we all set?
Yep,
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Ms. Howe?
yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Items for actions, online checks.
Yeah, that was from me, and I looked into the site that I was told by some Washington politicians that we could have copies available to the public that our township used. And I understand from Karen that there's some reasons why that's not a good idea. It was a thought for transparency, but I understand there's reasons why not to, so I can withdraw that.
So no action?
Yeah, non-action. Unless, do
I'm
you want to
sorry
talk
to
to it
see
a little
that.
bit?
Well, I
I
mean.
liked it. I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, so
I
in
could-
speaking with our internal, the consultant from Maynard Costerison that did our internal controls, she advised against it. Treasurer Wilson reached out to Huntington Bank, they advised
Right.
against it. And I can share with you today that Aaron Stevens, who's a partner at Maynard Costerison, has advised against it, and reaching out to our auditor, Stephen Breyer, they have also advised against it. There are
Was there a
some
reason?
security concerns, and that those concerns can be met. The request for information can be met through a FOIA. So they indicated that it was dangerous to our internal controls and to the security of township finances to post that information online.
Boy, when you said that immediately, I mean, whoops, sorry, guys. You mean as a FOIA request, in order to obtain checks that the township has written, besides our vouchers that we sign, which we've never seen, I can get, through a FOIA request, all checks that 2 weeks or month, or how does that work? A FOIA request is amazing to me. I mean, I'm listening to that and thinking.
So it would fall under kind of how I explained to you before about the emails. So we would look for all documents that would be pertinent to that request. And then we would look to see if there's
Oh.
any information, such as our checking account number or any other identifying information would be
Which nobody
redacted.
has. Okay.
So we would be able to have the opportunity
Okay.
to review each and to redact any information that shouldn't be public.
So what I would need to do, if I were going to do this, which I'm not, because I'm not interested in doing, I do enough with the checking, but if that was something that I wanted to do, I would have to start with a whole group of FOIAs. My first FOIA would have to be your banks. My second FOIA would have to be your check numbers for those banks. My third FOIA would then have to be for that particular area that I would be interested in, such as the DDA. We'll use that because that's an easy one. And it doesn't have that many checks. Let's take the general checking, which has a lot of checks in it, or your payroll. So I would have to go a third time and ask for the general fund checks for a specific time. So it would be checks that were written from December, or say January of 2023 till February of 2023. Is that what you mean by a FOIA request? Because you'd have a whole, I mean, you really start rolling through those little suckers like,
Can I say something?
yeah, you're busy. Go ahead.
You have access to the vouchers.
No, I'm just,
so
I'm
they're- I
saying
mean,
for people who, I don't
The
care if I have
public, okay.
access, but they don't have access to what your checks are. So.
But they could
actually-
FOIA them too if they
I
wanted
ask a
to.
question to Lizzie? Can they actually FOIA
That's
a
what I-
check stub, or would we block out the checking account number? I mean, because that's the,
That's-
We would typically redact whatever is information that
So
would
do
give
no
you,
good.
right, access to accounts. I think the superintendent
Okay.
already spoke to that. And then to your question, Madam Supervisor, I don't know that it takes 3 or 4 FOIAs to do that. I think a carefully worded FOIA to say, I would like the following for this, this, and that.
And we'll ask for a 10-day extension, and we'll have to do that in order to find.
Maybe, but that could
But
still be
that's-
faster than multiple FOIAs. But again,
Okay.
as the clerk has indicated, I think you have access, or could have
I'm not
access
talking
if you
about,
wish.
what I'm trying to do is an example, because I happen to like this idea of being able to have access to the checks, and I'm not so sure the security issue is an issue that's really there. And I'll say this for the same reason I said it before, we contract with these people to do. To
protect us.
Yeah, allegedly, so that, protect us from
Fraud.
you guys, from fraud, is that what? So I don't think there's a fraud if you have millions of people who are doing this online. I'm not real sure, I'm not real clear on exactly I have to do more digging with this, but I don't think this is a bad idea. I don't think this is an awful idea. And I would certainly check with people
one thing
who have
that's-
actually done it.
The one thing the site does have that I can give you is access of all payroll checks that we send out
For Bath.
for Bath Township, yes.
See, it's already there.
So, not checks that we send out to contractors, but all employees.
Employees, well,
is all there.
that's-
Yeah, that's the one part that's
I don't care,
there.
vendors are something, well,
Right.
whatever. But what I guess I'm interested, so you're saying
I may
that through
find out-
this, how did?
I may
okay.
find out more, but it's a DC thing, that this is every government in the USA, you have access through this site to find out all pay stubs, all paychecks for everybody.
And they FOIA it.
No, it's open to you.
It's open. That's,
Everybody in the audience
There's
can go
no-
find it.
there's no
I'll
FOIA.
send it out on Facebook, because it's really interesting. It's all there.
yeah,
I thought.
And
I
they can
read
compare it.
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
You can
I
compare
thought I
it.
read something that they were FOIAing this information. That's what I thought I read.
That website says they FOIA
Yeah.
So,
50,000.
so it's the same process I'm talking about? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So, yeah.
So they FOIA'd them.
Okay.
Yes,
get
it-
'Cause
I
our
mean, one of
information
their
is on
lines
there.
said that.
Yeah, ours
Yeah.
is all on there.
Yeah.
But they FOIA'd it.
They FOIA'd it. And the Mackinac Foundation does the same thing. They
So do you
FOIA.
have
That's why the
FOIAs
FOIA laws are out there,
No,
for them to
I
get
was-
that information.
No, that's what I'm asking.
It's not the US government.
No.
Well, who's asking?
It's Open the Books,
So open the
which
books.
is a
So it's
subsidiary
it's a
of
private entity.
American Transparency, which seems to be a far-right group.
Well, it depends on what far right means.
Well, Tom Coburn is one of the folks. The Koch brothers is also
that's
people
pretty far.
listed, so
That's pretty
that's how
far.
I would define
Okay.
far-right.
Okay, but it's information. I'm not a far right, but I absolutely like the program, I like what it says.
Yeah, you can already see all of our
That's-
staff's
so-
salaries in here.
Okay. So it's
That is
not whether
interesting.
we agree or disagree, it's very
Nope.
interesting. Okay. All right. So items for action meeting, are we going to take a vote on this? So do I have someone who, I don't even have a
I thought she
motion.
said she
No, I
would
thought
shoot
you
her
were-
motion.
I kind of withdrew,
Okay.
I withdrew it, because it made sense.
Okay. Boy, that's good, because that would have been painful. Okay. Superintendent report.
Thank you. I'm pleased tonight that we've had some constructive dialogue on many of these issues, and I think we've come to some consensus here on some of the items. My office has been at work, obviously, producing the document that you have in front of you. We are also working on an updated version of the employment personnel policy. That will be bringing you other policies to look at. In addition, we were also recommended policies by the internal controls consultant that we'll be bringing forth. So There is a lot of work to do, and I appreciate that you're all willing to get in and dig in there and do the work. I think the work that we've been doing, obviously, on the board rules of order will be helpful to us. I think we're making some progress on some of these items, so I don't have a big report past that, but I'm open for questions if you have questions for me.
Appears like you're off the hook,
Okay,
so that works. No questions.
thank you, ma'am.
Public Statement 2, which is item 16.
Yeah, this is my third time up here. I'd have come up 4 times if you didn't cut it off in the first meeting. When they were talking about reimbursement.
Speak into the mic, please.
Marie, can you hear me now? When they were talking to you about reimbursing your legal fees, Ryan made a statement that it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
I rudely clamored from the peanut gallery, which is, by the way, a very rude thing to call these people, that he was wrong. I don't remember exactly what I said. Yes, it was, or something.
Just taking it.
And then I love it when 5 or 10 minutes later, the township attorney, she basically acknowledged everything that I said when she said, as a trustee or an attorney or a employee of the township, it's not my place to advise you to seek police help with this. Remember saying that?
Whatever I said is on record, Mr. Curtis. I'm not going to reinvent what I said multiple hours ago.
Well, it pretty much substantiated everything I said, because the first thing I need to know, who is our human resource director? Nobody can answer that?
Oh, yeah. Karen.
You're our human resource director?
That's correct.
Okay. Then why didn't you answer me? Well, the biggest question I have is, why did you turn those duties over to Ryan Fewens Bliss, somebody who's been just dying and laying landmines out for Marie Howe for months? A couple of years, actually. And without handling it yourself, why didn't anybody ask her side of this? She didn't even have a side. She didn't do anything. That's what the court found. They didn't have any evidence. Now we got Jennifer up here making noises. This is twice now that she's said that she's got a video of Marie slapping her. I'm going to FOIA that tomorrow. Is that real easy to get a hold of, I hope?
It's already been FOIA'd by somebody.
Oh, has it? Was it turned over to him?
I don't know, I'm not the FOIA clerk.
Can you answer that for me?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So my final thing is, if it was so important to move Marie out of her office and back into that closet back there, why did you guys let it go for 7 freaking months? 7 months. Did my beeper beep? I didn't hear it.
It did.
Did it beep?
Yeah.
That ain't right. Why'd you wait 7 months? Because there wasn't a problem and you know it.
Ladies always get first.
Nancy Hoyland, Webster Road. And I just have questions. I don't understand why it is that it's been found that euchre and bingo are not illegal, and yet we cannot play them at the senior center. And the decision being made by our superintendent, what I understand, instead of the board. Should the board not have some decision-making in that as to what the people want and what we should be able to have in an effort to grow the senior center? This is what I've been about for a long time, trying to grow the senior center and give them activities. I mean, we're going to be open 5 days a week, but what are the people going to do? Give them something, give them activities. This euchre and bingo keep the mind active. We're older people. We need to keep our minds active. And give us something to do rather than just sit around the house and clean house. I want something more to do than that. And it's more competitive if we are playing pay to play. And our people enjoy it. That's what they want. So should it not be a decision made by the board? What is your place here? Isn't that to look out for what the people want? Sorry, I'm hoping that you'll reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Jacob Mizak. I was one of the candidates that was put up for Planning Commission. I understand that I'm a newcomer to the game, so I understand that most communities, when we're looking for these key positions, as I would call them, we like to look inward. But I would ask that next time my name comes up, because I will apply for another commission, because I have a lot to offer this town and this community. I hope that now that you can see a face to a name, I'm one of you, although a relative newcomer, I promise you all that I have a lot to offer, and I hope that you take my next appointment with such consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
My name's Lyle Mund, and I'm not from this town. I'm from Langsburg facility. I'm not actually in Langsburg, but I'm outside it. I want to say that this playing euchre and playing it the way they are, it's been very helpful to me. It helps keep my mind active. We put $4 in there, of which 25% goes back to this group right here. Because one of it's $1, of it's yours. It's a requirement to use your senior center. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem, and nor does anybody else, because I discussed it with him. If somebody that doesn't want to play for money, just plays. The only dollar they got to put in is the dollar that goes back here, because that's not my choice. As far as trying to cut something out, because I don't know why you would, I come here because it was easily to come here, because I have such a friendly group. Is there any bickering going back and forth? You betcha. I'm at the age where bickering is just part of it. But it's all friendly. Nobody's getting mad at anybody. And if anybody's coming here with complaints, they've been very quiet about it, because I haven't heard anything about it. I wish you'd really consider what you see, and it's not, it's even by state regulations, it's not gambling. It's, what term do they use?
A game of skill.
Game of skill. And it is. I don't know how many of you, probably all of you have played the euchre game. It is a game of skill and percentage of luck. But that's what makes it interesting. I just hope you listen to the people that are here. You have, half the people here are probably people that play that game. That should be some representation to how important it is. I didn't take 3 minutes, but I can't think of any. Oh, one thing that I did want to say, and be sure to tell you, I appreciate the community. I appreciate the fact that the day I walked in the door, I said, well, I'm not really from Bath. And they said to me, so what?
Good.
We're glad to have you here. We're glad that you're here. And they treated me as such. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lyle. Appreciate it. Those are not the most comfortable chairs.
My husband and I have problems talking because I've had a lot of medical problems lately. And I appreciated all the support I had from the group all the time that I was in the hospital and every place. And even when I'm having trouble speaking, they all put up with me and they all still love me and I know I'm welcome. So it's got to be a game of skill. I played it since I was in college, but I'm still learning. We're always still learning. Everybody plays different, but we all love it. So you'd be displacing. Just last week we had 4 tables, that's 16 people that you'd be displacing immediately. Because we can't all come from different areas. We share rides, we get people there, we do things, we have a lot of fun. So you're welcome to join us any day, any Thursday, hopefully. And thank you so much.
Thank you for speaking.
Somebody left a phone. What was it? Okay, we'll get it. Kenny Church, 8th generation, Bath resident. An excellent question was asked tonight during the discussion on where our supervisor should be. Our clerk asked, what happens if the behavior continues? What an excellent question.
Yeah.
But it boggles my mind that this alleged assault occurred over a year ago, August of last year, I believe.
Well, that's
Or
when,
in September,
yeah,
so
the 25th
over
of
a year
August.
ago.
Yeah.
According to Trustee Fewens Bliss, there are binders and binders of complaints. Several weeks ago, Treasurer Wilson said that she had been assaulted, has video, and she is very frightened. And yet you also talked about not having a policy on how to deal with any of this. So a year has gone by with multiple people coming to you and saying, there's a problem, and you've done nothing. Now, that's a huge lawsuit. It's also gross mismanagement. I have no idea how you can even defend anything that's happening. And I'm kind of looking at this, you know, I have a history of being in law enforcement, so I'm very evidence-based. And what I see is no action at all being taken. Action that was taken didn't seem to be taken by the proper person, handed over to a trustee and not done by the human resource person. I see Miss Wilson, who's so afraid of Miss Howe that she sits right next to her every meeting since she's complained about it. So I'm wondering how accurate, how trustworthy can these complaints actually be? I think the whole, believe movement is done, and it's hard to actually imagine that this is true because of your all's inaction. You have no policy to handle it. You discussed policy tonight on private emails. Great, that might be something that just came up, and okay, something you have to handle because it just came up, I get that. But this happened over a year ago, and apparently has happened prior, according to what the email said, and since with the binders and binders. So why have you done nothing? Is it because this is just a continuation of what I have observed of the horrible treatment that you have of our supervisor? I've seen you all talk to her like she's an idiot. I've seen you act like she doesn't know how to run a meeting when you guys haven't done a very good job yourselves. So maybe maybe do something, actually do something about an actual complaint. Don't forget there's a cell phone up here.
That's where it is.
Doesn't mean you get to talk again. Sit down.
Thank you, Kenny.
My name is Ron Whitaker, and I'm amongst these criminals that have been playing euchre for money at the senior center. I would like
that
to
feeling.
object to the recent ruling where we can't play for small money up there and enjoy ourselves. I think it's a mistake, and I hope that everybody will reconsider that decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Judy Gardy. I live on Park Lake Road. I think it was great to have you at the table tonight. I think the lawyer participating in the discussion at the dais made a lot of difference in how the meeting went, and I thought that was very helpful. And thank you for sitting at the table tonight, Lindsay, appreciate it. Boy, you got a lot of work ahead of you. Looking at the budget, looking at the ARPA funds, looking at the CIP. I think it's a very difficult job that you have without a plan. I started asking you about a strategic plan in February. I don't know, I think it's now September. I think you're gonna be a lot more successful in the year going forward and in making these decisions. These are very difficult decisions around the budget and around ARPA funds and around the CIP without a plan. And I think it's critically important that you think about that. I'd also like to thank the seniors who came tonight from the senior center. I was quite surprised to see them myself. It shows you, I didn't call them. I don't even know how they knew that there was a meeting tonight, but I think it shows you how important community activities that they are deeply engaged in at the senior center are to them. And what they're reacting to is an email that Karen sent that said, there's a rule that you don't play for money at the senior center. Or perhaps she said township property. And so the question I think that they're asking is, who sets the policy? It's not against the state law. Gambling Commission says you can play euchre, a game of skill, for money at a senior center, just as it says they make an exception at senior centers for playing bingo for money as long as the jackpot is less than $250. So they're asking, why is it if the state says it's okay, that the township says it's not okay? And I think they're asking who makes the final decision, because they damn well would like to play euchre at the senior center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy.
All right, I do have another question. We paid $100 deposit to use the senior center to play euchre.
Nancy?
I'm sorry?
Nope, you're only allowed one time.
One
at the-
time?
At the podium per public, so Martha can ask the question.
Okay, Martha.
Thank you.
My name is Martha Sherman.
I thought you looked familiar. I thought you looked familiar.
At the senior center, we paid $100 deposit, but now to use the Bath Community Center, I had to deposit $200. So I know they just want to know what's the difference. Why we're paying $200 for the community center.
Not only.
Is
it legal to play at the community center?
I know. I mean, is it legal to play there, but yet not at the senior center? What's the difference? It's all,
Texas Hold'em though?
what?
I thought we were talking Texas Hold'em.
No, we're talking euchre.
I thought we were talking Texas Hold'em.
No,
No, she's talking euchre.
yeah, I'm talking euchre.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
understood the memo.
Karen?
Something about Texas Hold'em.
I was gonna say, if they
Yeah.
get to reach out,
That's an interesting question. I
it's
didn't know
just
that.
it's the deposit for the community center is different. It always has been. But there's no, just contact us at staff tomorrow. We can work through your deposits and if you.
Well, I already paid it.
Okay, but we can refund your other deposit that you had on file, so we'll refund that to you.
No, because it's $200 for that, and I only had to pay $100.
Oh, you paid the
extra
difference,
today.
okay.
Yeah, they
But
transferred
it
the
was
Okay.
$100 over to
Okay,
total.
thank you, I didn't understand
Yeah.
that.
So the
Okay.
senior center is
$100
like,
deposit.
They're making them pay $100 to play there.
right, no, it was $100 before. What's the 200? I don't,
At the BCC, the deposit rate is higher,
Bad community center.
the community center.
yeah, so what I'm saying is you put the senior center on the same level as the community center.
No.
No, the fee structure is different, it was been
Okay, so it's
determined.
not $200 that's being paid for the senior center.
No, it's 100.
To rent it.
It's a deposit to rent.
No, I understand that, but when Martha said $200, I thought, that's twice. But the
Because she's
senior
now gone to
center-
the Bath Community Center to run a program.
I gotcha. Thank you. Did you understand, Martha, what that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michonne Felton, and I'm one of the seniors that it loves coming to the community, the senior center, and playing, and sometimes I win $2, doggone it. And also bringing food. Some of us like to cook and share our recipes, and really enjoy doing that too. But just, I want to have you reconsider us playing so I can get another $2. Thank you.
Ma'am, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry. Ma'am, can I just get your name again? I'm sorry.
Michonne, M-I-C-H-O-N, Felton, F as in Frank, E-L-T-O-N.
Thank you.
Michonne. That's a very pretty name, Michonne. Never heard it.
Rosemary Posh, I'm a Bath-born native, but reside in DeWitt now. And my sympathies go out to all of the township employees, because what I see and feel that has happened is that you have created, between the board and the superintendent and the legal system, you've done nothing but establish a hostile work environment.
That's true.
You've discriminated against the supervisor. You more or less pretended that you're a school teacher and she's been put in the back room with a dunce cap on simply so that there's no other confrontations or any other complaints that can be made against her. She was deemed innocent. And for someone to shove her back in the back room just because there's so many complaints flying around from her coworkers. Are we in kindergarten again with teachers and students that we have to punish them and segregate them and keep them separated so that there's no bullying and no fighting? I'm just gonna pray for all you guys, because you really need some prayers.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anybody else?
I'm Jim Church. We've heard pros and cons from this podium tonight. I want to leave you on a high note. Ken, my son, mentioned he's an 8th generation resident. Well, it's not because of me. I married his mother, who was a 7th. And she passed away a year ago. And we had her funeral on what would have been our 64th wedding anniversary. But 68 years ago today, I met her at a funeral. So funerals don't bother me. Some of the best things in my life have happened at funerals. Anyway, the deceased was her great uncle by blood and my uncle by marriage. So I walked in that funeral home knowing that half the people in the family room were going to be strangers, and they were. And there she stood. We were both 16. She had on a summer print dress, a white straw hat, white gloves, and white pumps. And I got real interested real quick. Anyway, the rest is history. So let's leave tonight with a bright spot in our hearts.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Board member comments. Sherry, you're on.
Thank you, taxpayers. I appreciate hearing what you have to say, what you want, what our community wants. I'm sure as hell trying to do it. Get out and vote.
That's true.
Thank you.
It's your turn.
I'd like to give out a great shout out to all of our public safety workers who have done extraordinary work in Bath Township in the last 3 weeks. And I'd like to include the office staff that supports all of that. Because when we have these not nice things happening in our community, they all have to answer the klaxon, and those people really answer the bell for us. And they should be recognized for their achievements, especially recently.
It's true.
I agree with Joe. Just thank you all for coming and giving me your input about the senior center. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's mine? Sorry, it's my turn. All right. I'm going to start out by saying thank you ever so much for coming. That is so greatly appreciated. Second thing I want to say is, on behalf of the supervisor, thank you so much for the support. That is greatly appreciated. But as a supervisor, I want to, how do I say this? I want to express my thank you to Rick Curtis. I know that sometimes that's a little tough for some, for actually establishing the rules and for pushing to have them put in, because that has made a difference here. So when someone says something is done, 10 years ago, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. That has stayed here and worked. So it's greatly appreciated. And I'm really sorry that Ryan has had a problem with this. And for me personally, I take that very seriously, because those board minutes or their board order, not minutes, our order, is really terribly, terribly important. And it helps us function by how we're supposed to do things, not just because we feel like doing something. So it is a good thing. It is a good thing. So Rick, thank you ever so much. And that again is coming, from me personally. So I don't know, and I'm sure from Sherry. She's sitting there looking at me like, "What's the matter with you?" But that's okay. I can deal with that. But again, my thank you goes to all of you for coming and spending the evening with us. Jacob, I'm really sorry, but I am so pleased to hear you're going to continue, because I'm going to continue. So between the two of us, maybe something will happen, hopefully. But again, thank you again for coming, and I greatly appreciate it. And I do support public service. I think that's an awesome piece. The firemen and police officers for Bath Township have done an awesome job, and they've had a really rough time. It's been a rough 3 or 4 weeks. So I will shut my mouth and let Brenda start out.
Okay. I want to say, I really appreciate your input. Maybe, I can't remember the last time that we had an update on our rental policies. So maybe it's time that we take the time out to look at it. We've never considered it before. You guys brought all this, information to our attention. So I appreciate it.
Oh, yes, please do.
Also, thanks to the euchre players for coming and sharing your thoughts. I feel your frustration. Feels like maybe we trumped your ace on this, so we'll look into it. Marie, I don't know what you're talking about the board rules. I have no problem with the board rules or Rick. This is a one-sided conflict. I would ask, though, that we find some way to enforce the rules that are currently written about the audience yelling and screaming every meeting. It's disruptive, and whether you believe I can hear or not, I'm telling you I can't. So I'm asking to enforce the rules that you have enforced on me, and I'm happy to abide by. We need to enforce them across the board.
Then I suggest
Thank you.
that,
No, that's my board comment. That's
no,
it.
I appreciate that, but I'm going to answer it.
It wasn't a question.
I suggest that maybe our constituents need to have copies of our board rules so that they understand where we're coming from. That always helps. But thank you. All right, it looks, oh my God, it's after 9. Sorry,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
need a vote? Quickly?
I'm sorry. Ms. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Ms.
Didn't
Kellerman?
realize it's after 9.
Mr. Funes-Bliss?
In honor of Al, yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
All right, we're official.
9:09?
Boy, Val, you kept me on track.
Have a great night, Rick. Have a great night. You're welcome.
He did.
I'm
They
sleeping
spent
fine,
a
Rick,
month
but thanks for
in-
your concern.